doctor's appointment. Just hoping to be here sometime.
Good morning. I'd like to call the March 26, 2024 County Commissioners meeting to order. To start with, we would like to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you could remain standing for a moment of silence. We have quite a few tragedies that have occurred both locally and overnight. First being the Key Bridge. Let's keep everyone that was on the bridge, everyone that responded, all the first responders in our prayers and thoughts. Also, last night we lost Mr. Art Blake. Please keep his family. He was a longtime school teacher here in the county and was very essential in the wrestling program that we now have in the county. I'd like to also keep the John Baker family in our prayers and thoughts. He passed away a couple of days ago, and one of our retirees, Miss Dorothy Cisco, who was a long-time employee at the Kent County Detention Center, also passed away on March 11th. So please keep her family in our prayers and thoughts. Thank you. I would like to make an announcement that Commissioner Fithian, I'm hoping that he's going to be joining us here shortly, but he had an obligation that he had to take care of this morning. Time is allotted at the end of each meeting for the commissioners to receive comments from the public. We have 8 consent items for consideration here this morning. One is the regular session minutes from March 19th, 2024. Number 2 are the liquor minutes from March 19th, 2024. Number 3 is the closed session minutes from March 2024. We have the Chestertown Garden Club raffle only, April 2nd, 2024. We have Dan Matson, Director of Public Works, who's requesting a water and sewer allocation. We have Mr. Bill Mackey, Director of Planning, Housing and Zoning, reauthorization of required plans for receipt of CDBG grant funding, fair housing and equal opportunity FHEO plan, Section 3 of the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1968 plan, and the Minority-Owned Business Enterprises and Women-Owned Businesses Enterprises MBE plan. We have Bill Mackey again, Director of Planning and Housing and Zoning, Planning and Zoning Fee Schedule Revision. And finally, Bill Mackey again, Director of Planning and Housing and Zoning, extension for CDBG MD-22-CD-1 for Housing Council Services by MRDC. And I'm looking for a motion.
I make a motion to, for all 8 items on the agenda.
And I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Your motion's to approve those items.
Move forward, okay.
Yes, to say to approve those items.
I'll still second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have a special Class C license for the Chestertown Tea Party Festival, Incorporated Beer, Wine, and Liquor, May 24th through the 26th, 2024. So this requires a public hearing. Today, we're going to hold a public hearing. Let me click on this here. There are 3 dates. three dates for this license. One on May 24th for the Chestertown Tea Party Festival Beer, Wine, and Liquor application. There's another one on May 25th for the Chestertown Tea Party Festival Incorporated Beer, Wine, and Liquor. And the third one is on May 26th, 2024, the Chestertown Tea Party Festival Incorporated Beer, Wine, and Liquor. So this is our public hearing. Is there anyone here in the audience who would like to speak in favor or against the application? Seeing nobody stepping forward or offering any input, I'd like to ask the county attorney if he's had a chance to look at all the applications.
I have, and everything is in order.
Everything is in order. So knowing that, I'd be open to a motion.
I make a motion to approve the special Class C per diem liquor license applications for the Chestertown Tea Party Festival as requested.
And I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have a public hearing. I'm going to turn it over to our county attorney.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is on Code Home Rule Bill Number 3, 2024, for the short-term rental tax. This is the tax that we used to refer to as the hotel tax. It's now referred to as the short-term rental tax because it encompasses short-term lodging establishments of all types, not just hotels. It could be a bed and breakfast or an Airbnb or a hotel, and it would be subject to this tax. First, with your permission, I'd like to read the hearing notice into the record.
Sure.
Code Home Rule Bill Number 3, 2024, introduced by Ronald H. Fithian, President of the Board of County Commissioners for Kent County, Maryland, an act concerning Chapter 152 taxation, Article 3 hotel rental tax, for the purpose of ensuring equal treatment of all transient lodging, including short-term rentals, by repealing Chapter 152 taxation, Article 3 hotel rental tax, and reenacting with amendments Chapter 152 taxation, Article 3 short-term rental tax herein. A hearing will be held on March 26, 2024, at 10 a.m. in the Commissioners' Hearing Room, R. Clayton Mitchell, Jr., Kent County Government Center, 400 High Street, Chestertown, Maryland. The agenda for the meeting will be published online 24 hours in advance of the meeting at kentcounty.com/commissioners/meeting-agenda. Citizens are encouraged to participate in the public hearing process. If you require communication assistance, please contact the County Commissioner's Office at 410-778-4600 and press 4, or visit Maryland Relay at mdrelay.org no later than noon Friday, March 22, 2024. A complete copy of the proposed legislative bill is available in the Commissioner's Office, 400 High Street, Chestertown, Maryland, Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and on the county's website at kentcounty.com/commissioners/draft-legislation. And this is by order of the County Commissioners of Kent County, Maryland, Sandra M. Blackiston Clark. It was published in the Kent County News on March 7th, 2024, and again on March 14th, 2024. Has anyone signed the sheet to testify in this, other than the Economic Development Director? Then I'm going to dispense on reading the procedures for testifying, since it looks like only staff is going to be testifying. But I will note that written comments will be accepted until Friday, March 29th, 2024, till the close of business, and that's this upcoming Friday. And those can be sent in by email, kentcounty@kentgov.org, or by letter, County Commissioners of Kent County, 400 High Street, Chestertown, Maryland, 21620. So anyone who is here that may want to offer written comments, or anyone that is watching online, written comments can be accepted until this Friday. So with that, we would call our Economic Development Director
And team.
and team to testify. And then
Ladies.
they will be here to answer any questions, and then when they're done, we'll ask the audience again, just to make sure that there isn't anybody here that wishes to speak.
So good morning, and Rose is with me because obviously she's done a lot of work on the short-term rentals. So the legislation, the first thing I want to say, this is not a new tax. I think there's some misperceptions about that in the community. Hotel rental tax was first adopted in Kent County in 1992, and it was amended in 2004. The current local code's not in alignment with the Maryland annotated code regarding short-term rental taxes, so the amended legislation takes care of that issue, as well as ensures equal treatment of all transient lodging, including short-term rentals in the county. Changing the name to short-term rental tax, and then it further defines short-term rentals under the definitions. And it lists the procedures for payment, collection, and then return of the revenue collected to the towns where applicable. So if there's any questions, we're happy to answer.
And we are still working on an enforcement arm of this at some point down the road.
We have had conversations, and they are continuing to talk about that there's a little bit more of a challenge there. This is a first step, but the challenge becomes municipalities are obviously, they have different issues than the county. You know, you're not going to have parking issues like you do in Chestertown with properties out in the county as much. So it really does come down to the local jurisdictions. So the county is going to focus on the issues that the county has, but we will be communicating with the towns as we go through that process.
And this legislation tends to deal with the tax and the assessment collection of the tax rather than land use and zoning issues. The land use and zoning issues would be addressed for Airbnbs in the unincorporated areas of the county in our land use ordinance. And then in the towns, that would be addressed in the
Municipalities.
right, for their zoning ordinances. And when the hotel tax was originally imposed, Airbnbs and Verbos didn't exist. And so that is why you have the name historically, hotel tax. So since 1992, we've had Airbnbs and Vrbo. And as Jamie said, this levels the playing field because hotel has to pay it, bed and breakfast has to pay it, and Airbnb should pay it too, because they're the same type of lodging. So this also gets our code in alignment with the Maryland annotated code. And we've gone through the code and matched up the provisions, so they're consistent. And the division of the tax, if there is a tax collected from a lodging establishment that is in an incorporated town, 90% of that revenue goes to the town. We keep 10% as an administrative fee because we're collecting the tax. And we, at a previous meeting, approved the contract for a vendor to do that. So we're working on streamlining this and making it more efficient and trying to identify the properties that are subject to the tax. So it's been a lot of work put into this, but we're moving in the right direction.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No. No, good job, ladies. It's been I know, it's been
Any questions from the audience?
challenge.
So if,
Anybody from the audience like to say anything? Yes, John?
I would like to thank staff for all of their hard work on this item. Leveling the playing field is challenging.
Absolutely.
Yes, ladies, you have done a great job with this.
Thank you.
so, Commissioner, you would next close the public hearing. You're not going to be voting on this. Comments are accepted until Friday, and then at the next legislative day, this will be before you for third reading, where you can vote on the proposed code provision.
All right, so I'm looking for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
And I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Jamie, I think you're up again here as soon as I can
We are.
move this computer.
And this is a related topic.
Yeah.
It is.
So we're happy to say, you have all the, you have MOUs in front of you for consideration for approval and signature. The current MOUs regarding short-term rentals between the county and the towns were not consistent. And there was a desire by all to treat all municipalities the same. So the new MOUs include the 10% administrative fee to offset the cost of the software used to identify, monitor, and collect and report on the taxes collected. And they, I already said that, sorry. Communication and conversations have been going with the municipalities throughout the process. So all 5 towns have approved and executed the MOUs, and they are now ready for the county commissioner's approval and signature. All have an effective date of July 1st, 2024, to align with the effective date of Code Home Rule 3-2024, short-term rental tax, and implementation of the GovOS software. I did do a little calculations today. So currently, 5% was the standard in the town of Chestertown and Rock Hall administrative fee. By raising it to 10%, we cover about half of the cost of the GovOS software. That's just the administrative fee. So we are even more confident now that the software will pay for itself.
And most of the short-term rentals are located in incorporated towns, is that correct?
Yes, however, the county has a fair number as well, yeah.
Yes, but the
county has-
Airbnbs are
The
starting
county
to
and,
grow.
the county and Rock Hall have the majority, almost in equal amounts of what we identified at the time. And then Chestertown comes in next with maybe like 20 less, and then they significantly decrease. Betterton had like 15.
But if you add together all the short-term rentals in all the municipalities, that aggregate total is greater than what is in the non-incorporated area of the county. Is that correct? You follow what I'm saying? If you were to
Follow
take the
what you're
5
saying.
towns
We understand.
in it, yeah.
It's just, we'd have to look at the,
Yeah,
and
I'd have
remember,
to
we
look at
didn't
the
get through the
numbers.
entire process. We
Right.
stopped because it was a very manual and time-consuming
Right.
process.
Right.
So we didn't complete, we just made sure that it justified the cost. So we were trying to prove that return on investment before we made a recommendation.
And that's why we have the vendor.
Correct.
Yeah, and the goal here is that the revenue will increase all the way around, even though the town may be getting 90% rather than 95. More of these establishments are going to be identified, and the tax is going to be collected on a more consistent basis.
Correct.
Yeah.
We don't feel like the towns will lose any revenue either.
Right.
We wanted to make sure there would be no effect for the county's revenue or the towns. And that's the manual exercise that, thanks to Rose, was able to be completed.
One, just real quick clerical issue here, Jamie. It says all, according to the agenda here, it says all have an effective July 1st, and it's printed 2025, but it should be 2024, correct?
It should be 2024, thank you.
And that's to align with the fiscal year
Right.
also.
Correct,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's just a
Apologies on that.
typographical error.
Yes, 2024.
Right, I just want to, if anybody's reading it.
Yeah, I
wanna know.
appreciate that, thank you.
You caught that, I didn't pick up on that.
Welcome, Commissioner Fithian.
So
Good day, sir.
you would now entertain a motion to approve the MOUs.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the memorandums of understanding.
I make a motion to approve all 5 memorandums of understanding between the county and each municipality for the administration of short-term rentals.
And I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies. At this point in time, I'm going to turn the reins over to our president, Mr. Fithian, Commissioner Fithian. Yeah, we're down here.
Yeah, we're at the Kinko's.
I got you. Okay. First appointment, we have Pleasure of having Mr. Ken Kozel with us today, CEO, University of Maryland Shore Regional Health, for a community update.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Very good.
Is there a place I can sit to or see the computer? There we go. Thank you.
You want to try this?
Sure. Perfect.
Yeah, so what is displayed up there is what you're going to see right here, so you can address the board, and the screens will
Just
follow along.
page down. Okay. Oops.
Let's try it again. I thought I had this ready for you.
Do we need to maybe take that off?
There we go. Now you're cooking.
And page down?
Yep,
Beautiful.
thank you.
Can we do a time check, just so I don't disrupt your meeting? How much time would you like me to
You go ahead.
speak to?
Feel free.
I've got 97 slides. You sure? That could take us till lunch at
How
least.
many?
I'm just teasing.
Maybe we'll reconsider this.
Lots of picture slides, though, but thank you. First and foremost, thank you so much for the
Listen,
opportunity to be
the
here.
hospital is an important part of Kent County. We're glad to have you here to give us the update.
Thank you, sir. And Kent County is an important part of the University of Maryland Shore Regional Health's primary service area, so it's critical that we stay connected and well-informed. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
I've put together a PowerPoint presentation, and what we'll cover are the 4 items on this slide. And that includes, I just wanted to give you a high-level, very high-level overview of the state of rural health care in our country. And then I'll bring the plane down a little bit and talk to you about Shore Regional Health and who we are specifically and some of the services that we provide. And then I'll speak to the transformation that has occurred over the last 12 years, which includes significant transformation here in Kent County and in Chestertown. And then I'll end by sharing with you our progress towards the new regional medical center, which will serve the 5 counties of the mid-shore that we serve. Okay, and then certainly can answer any questions along the way that you have. So, Commissioners, it shouldn't go unsaid that rural health care in the United States is failing. It is at dire straits at this point, and here's just some statistics to share with you. That since 2005, 191 rural hospitals have closed across the country, and 37 of those since 2020, so only within the last few years. You'll see that services have been removed from hundreds of hospitals in the last decade, but more importantly is the last bullet, which is that more than 600 rural hospitals in the United States today are at risk of closing, and it's in large part for financial reasons. So I wanted to just share that and set the stage with you, because at the University of Maryland Shore Regional Health, we don't see that as our fate, to be one of those hospitals that are closing. What we see ourselves as a vibrant organization that is part of the University of Maryland Medical System, which is on this slide. And you can see the state of Maryland, and where you see some shaded colors, it's green on my slide. Those are the counties in the state of Maryland that the University of Maryland Medical System has a presence or provides health care in those communities. The University of Maryland Medical System represents about 25% of all of the health care that's provided in the state of Maryland. And on this slide also, you'll see the geography that Shore Regional Health covers that's encased in the red box, and that is our primary service area. So as you can see, we cover from northern Kent County down to southern Dorchester County. That's an area, and I will zoom in on this a little bit, that covers about 2,000 square miles. That's comparable to the state of Delaware, and that is our primary service area at Shore Regional Health. But as you can see, the population of the 5 counties in total represents only about 172,000 residents. So we are rural healthcare in Maryland, and again, we are part of the University of Maryland Medical System that's trying to design innovative solutions to providing rural healthcare across the mid-shore. And this is a slide that tries to depict on one slide some of the major enhancements that we've made as part of our comprehensive health delivery plan. You can pick your favorite county and go around the circle and see some of the advancements that we've made, from adding urgent care facilities to creating cancer centers and diagnostic imaging centers in counties. But my favorite today is what we've been accomplishing in Kent County. And as you can see, 2 major significant advancements in the fact that the state has really helped provide us the tools with how we advance care here in this county. And back in July of 2021, 2023 was the first date of our Maryland Rural Hospital designation for the hospital here in Chestertown and in Kent County. This new designation allowed us to convert the hospital into a rural hospital that focuses on acute care needs of the rural community. But we also recognize that there are populations, that the aging population here in Kent County really requires more than just acute care facilities. And what we've been working on over the last several years is renovating the building that's adjacent to the hospital on the campus. That renovated building is going to become our Aging and Wellness Center of Excellence, where we'll provide health and wellness in that building that tries to have nonstop services, one-stop facility services in that building. Just to give you an example of some of the services that we've offered and the volumes of patients that we've seen, just in the last year, we average about 10,500 emergency department visits at our Chestertown facility each year. When you look at that, we also average about 350 admissions to our Chestertown Hospital here in the hospital facility. We offer primary care here in this in the Chestertown community, and we see over 4,200 primary care visits per year from our community members. We do over 24,000 imaging exams for our patients in this region. So we're providing a lot of care and services here locally, but if you need a higher level of care, the intent is to align with the regional medical center. I mentioned the Aging and Wellness Center of Excellence here in Chestertown. We are offering some services in that building as we speak, but the renovations for that facility will be complete, and we expect to have the opening ceremony sometime in the fall of this year. So we're moving towards finalizing those renovations and look forward to that opening ceremony. I do have to acknowledge Senator Hershey, who has been a staunch advocate of Shore Regional Health and also has been helpful in providing funds for that renovation here on this campus in the form of millions of dollars towards the renovation of that medical office building for Chestertown. But we're so much more than just the acute care facilities and the buildings that provide the care and services. For us to advance and thrive as a rural healthcare system, we need partnerships within our communities to help manage the entire care continuum of our patients. And what you'll see here on this slide is just some examples of the partnerships that have really helped us advance healthcare and wellness on the Midshore. And I'll just call a few of those out. Chop Tank Community Healthcare System. The federally qualified health center provides primary care, dental services, and behavioral health here in Chestertown. And through a partnership with Shore Regional Health, we provide them some money and they provide the care and services right in Philosopher's Terrace building here in Chestertown. So a great partnership that continues to provide essential services to our community. Telemedicine is another offering that we propose here to offer access to primary care and specialists in our region. And again, Chesapeake Community College is another key partner of ours. As you probably have heard, workforce shortages exist across the country. They exist at a dire strait in healthcare, and we rely heavily on Chesapeake College to help populate the workforce for the healthcare system here. So significant partnerships in that regard as well. Also, I wanted to share with you that not only have we made structural changes and partnerships in our communities, but we're also looking at how we can continue to invest in the health and wellness of our community. And this slide just tries to give you some examples. We know that primary care is essential as a foundational element of health and wellness, so we're going to continue to add primary care providers throughout the Midshore region, including Chestertown. Having a geriatrician on our staff is also critically important because of the aging population that we have in this community. 25% or more of the residents in Kent County alone are 65 and older. So having a geriatrician available for the care and services right here in Chestertown is part of our strategic plan. So we're searching for that geriatrician, and when hired, that geriatrician will occupy space in the medical office building adjacent to the hospital. Women's health. We deliver almost 1,000 babies in the Midshore region, so investing in the health and wellness of mother and baby is critically important. during that critical time period. So you can see some of the investments that we've made in having providers on site in the hospital, providing care 24/7, 365. So there's an OB hospitalist present, there's an anesthesiologist present in the hospital, there's a pediatric hospitalist 24/7, 365. So mother and baby are well protected throughout their delivery process. And for those difficult pregnancies, we've also hired a maternal fetal medicine specialist who specializes in those complicated pregnancies. So again, having another specialist on board to support the needs of our community. In addition to women's health, cancer care is critically important for the Mid-Shore and is an important service line for Shore Regional Health. And you can see with the hiring of a GYN oncologist and expanding our services to be included in the Greenebaum Cancer Center is critically important for our service line and to ensure that our community gets the highest and best level of cancer care without having to travel outside of the Mid-Shore region for their care. And then I also mentioned neuro movement disorders and vascular services as other service lines that we're investing in as we speak. And we'll shift gears for a second and just give you a quick update on the Regional Medical Center, and then there's a few slides here to share with you about our progress. Just to acclimate you to the site, if you look to the far right of this slide, you'll see Route 50 running from the top to the bottom of the slide. If you're coming from the Bay Bridge to the Easton Airport, you'll pass the Talbot County Community Center on your right-hand side. As you pass the center, you'll make a right into the community center parking lot. The community center will be on your right. The hospital will be on the left of that. So we occupy about 236 acres of land that will be used for the regional hospital and ultimately additional services as time goes on. If you've hit the Easton Airport, you've gone too far. So it's the property just to the right-hand side of the community center. This is a block diagram of the actual hospital and medical services building. As you can see, it'll be a 6-story building with beds on each side of the elevator shaft that will run in the center, from behavioral health and inpatient acute rehab and ICU beds to medical surgical beds and obstetric beds, all in blue. In yellow boxes are the support services that we offer, including emergency department and imaging and observation beds. Our operating rooms will be on the second floor, and we have support services and dining on the right, to the left of the elevators on the first and second floors as well. And the multi-services building will be a 2-story medical office building that'll be about 60,000 square feet and be connected to the hospital. I get asked a lot, how many beds are there today and what's the new bed capacity of the existing, of the new hospital? This slide, if you look at towards the bottom, you'll see the number 118. Those are the numbers of licensed beds we have today at our Easton facility. You can go down the next column where you see additional beds. In some cases, there's positive numbers. In other cases, there's negative numbers in parentheses. But the total roll-up will be an additional 29 beds in the new facility, bringing us to a total of 147 beds. And most of those new beds are found in the observation unit, which will be adjacent to the emergency department. A lot of our patients that come into the ER are not safe for immediate discharge. They might need to be observed for 24 to 36 hours. There'll be designated beds in the right off of the ER where those patients can be observed. And if they can be safely discharged, they'll be discharged from that bed. If they need to be admitted, they'll go upstairs into an admitted bed. Just to give you a sense of where we are in the timing of this project, there were 4 key elements that will allow us to proceed. The first was to request $100 million in the state of Maryland's capital improvement plan that the governor sponsors. I'm pleased to report we learned in January that the governor did include $100 million in his CIP for this project. It's allocated from fiscal 24 through fiscal 28. But where we are today is his budget needs to be approved, and we're thinking that that's going to happen sometime around between April 1st and sine die on April 8th. But we have been in hearings with the Senate and House, and so far they have been supportive of the allocations that the governor has assigned for this project. So we're very pleased about that. The next item is the certificate of need. This is a required state approval for this building project. We needed CON to proceed, and we received the Maryland Healthcare Commission's unanimous support for this project at their January 2024 meeting. As many of you probably are aware, this has been a number of fits and starts with this project over the last decade since I've been here. This is the farthest we've ever gotten with CON approval for this project. So I'm pleased to say that that occurred in January of this year. Another important step in this process is to ask and receive a rate increase from the state of Maryland and the healthcare agency that regulates us. That rate increase is in negotiations now with staff, and we're hopeful that by May or June of this year, we'll get a final answer on the rate increase that will offset some of the cost of interest and depreciation for this project. And the project total is about $540 million. So that rate increase will be essential to affording the new mortgage on the hospital. And then finally, as part of this project, we intend to raise $50 million in local philanthropy. We have started that process with lead gifts and silent phases of a capital campaign. And that's going to be an important process to demonstrate to the UMS board that we can generate local support for this project in addition to the $100 million in state support. And then last, before the pictures, this is just a quick timeline of where we are. So going from left to right on your screen, we requested the CON and board's approval in September of 2022 and received permission to proceed. We submitted our CON in January of 2023. Back then, I believe I mentioned to you that it was probably going to take about a year for the state to respond to our CON. And sure enough, in January 2024, they responded affirmatively and unanimously with our approval to proceed. In red there, you'll see under 2024 two things. That's still the rate commission negotiations that we hope to be completed in the spring. And then with those approvals, we're hopeful to go back in front of the UMS board in the summer of this year and ask for approval to proceed with the project. At which point in time, if that is approved, we'll start doing some site work this summer on the property. So we'll start moving dirt and making preparations for the construction. We think that will take about 9 to 12 months. So we're looking at around the spring of next year to really start the construction project itself. The project will take about 3 years in total, and it will take us a few months once construction's complete to get the building ready for patients. But if things go to plan, we're expecting to open the building sometime in the summer of 2028. So just a high-level timeline with where we are. And then the last is just some pictures. This is a high-level view of an artist's rendering of the facility. If you're coming into the airport, this is likely what you'll see. More on the ground level is your parking in the front parking lot. This will be the main entrance to the facility. This is the back entrance where EMS will bring ambulances into the back of the facility and bring them right into the emergency department. This is the front lobby. So again, if you're coming out the main parking lot, you'll enter the front lobby on the ground floor and then ultimately go up to one of the nursing units. This is an artist's rendering of what one of those units will look like. All private rooms, all state-of-the-art technology. Today we have over 20 rooms that are semi-private, meaning that there are two beds in each of those rooms. So it makes it incredibly difficult to get family members, equipment, and things in those small rooms and maneuver effectively in those rooms. So I'm pleased to say all will be private rooms. And this is a rendering of what one of those private rooms will look like. Much more space, much more availability of equipment and family members to visit. And the couch behind this, the nurse that's in the room there, could be used for staying overnight as well in that facility, in that room. So I'll just end by saying that as I started, rural healthcare is challenged and in dire straits across the country with many, many closures and many possible closures coming over the next several years. But transforming Maryland's healthcare on the Midshore has been going on for the last 14 years, and our efforts have been to prevent that from happening. So what you can see is each of the 5 counties of the shore, including Kent County, has been true partners of SHORE, and we're grateful for allowing us to transform and to provide the services that we do in the community here. The Regional Medical Center will be the largest project on the Midshore that Shore Regional Health will undertake for decades to come. As I mentioned, the cost of the project, the timeline, This project would not have been viable without the complete and unanimous support of the Eastern Shore delegation, of Senator Hershey and Senator Mounts at the state legislative level, from the governor's office and the governor's staff. This has just been the major project for the Midshore that's been promoted, and I'm just pleased to say that we're moving this along at a pace and at a timeline that faster than we ever have. And again, we'll just appreciate your unwavering support and make a commitment to continue to provide cost-saving, financially strong, sustainable, and viable healthcare for this region for decades to come. So just wanted to say thank you again, appreciate your partnership, and appreciate the support that you've given us as we've transformed healthcare on the Midshore. And that's the end of the presentation, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Question, John? I'd just like to say thanks for coming in and updating us on this. It's a beautiful project. I can't imagine anybody that wouldn't be thrilled to see this thing get moving along the way it is. And I mean, 2028, I think, is the
Yes, sir.
The date will be occupying it. That's not that far away.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed. That's
How
the
about
plan.
that? One thing, and maybe I missed it, locally in the local hospital, you talked about some renovation work that was, what action, I know you've done a lot of work in the emergency room.
Right.
Some years ago. What are you working on now?
Yeah, so the work that we've done prior was really the structural support for the hospital, and it was renovations to the inpatient units, elevator shafts, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, all of the infrastructure that really is needed to support the hospital here in Chestertown, as well as the rooms, all private rooms, all equipped with top technology in the hospital itself. The construction that we're working on now is in the medical services building that's right on the same campus. It's just adjacent to the hospital.
Okay.
In that building are services like pediatricians' offices. We'll have primary care in that space, geriatricians in the space. The Lay Women's Center is in that space for cancer care and cancer therapy there. So it's an expansion and a renovation of that building to make sure that all of the space in there can be used for healthcare. So we were using it a lot for storage. It was a lot of space that just wasn't optimally used. So we decided to go back in and make major renovations there, while our clinicians are still occupying some of that space. So if you've got a pediatric patient at home, you're still seeing the pediatrician in that building. But ultimately, nearly 100% of the square feet of that building will be used for healthcare services. So the timeline for that is summer of this year, where we expect to have all that renovation complete and open additional services for the community.
Well, very good. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your support.
And again, thanks for coming in. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Couch? Dr. Karen Couch is a superintendent, and with her Elisa Stewart, supervisor of finance of Kent County Public Schools. FY 2024 unrestricted budget amendments, number 2 and 3. Good morning.
Good morning. So we're here to present the unrestricted budget amendments that were approved by the Board of Education. So I will turn it over to Elisa Stewart, who is our CFO.
All right, good morning, County Commissioners. Thank you for having us. We're requesting your approval of Budget Amendment 2 and 3 for fiscal year 2024 for the unrestricted funds. As you are aware, the Kent County Board of Education is utilizing MABE to assist in finding a new superintendent for the district. Initially, the cost to search for a superintendent was $20,000, so that was the Budget Amendment 2, to move those funds from the fixed charges category to the administration category. And then later, it was determined that there's going to be an actual estimated cost of about $50,000. So the additional $30,000 will be needed to assist with the superintendent search, and that's where the budget amendment number 3 comes in from that. And again, that's going to be taken from fixed charges category to the administration category. And so KCPS administration is requesting commissioners' approval for budget amendment 2 and 3.
Right, and I'll just add that the cost for MABE is just $20,000. The $30,000 is to assist in case, it may not be needed, but that would be to provide lodging and transportation costs for if there are superintendents that are traveling from out of state. So if that is no longer needed, or we only have in-state candidates, then that money will not be utilized. But the cost for the search is only $20,000.
So in short, you're just basically asking for movement of money that's already been budgeted?
Yes.
To cover
To cover
the
the search.
additional cost?
Any questions?
No, I was gonna ask her what the money was for. It seems like a lot of money to me to.
Actually, it's less than
Well, it
if we
might
were
be
to hire a
in your
private.
world, but in Albert's world, that seems like a lot of money to
Right.
hire somebody, but that's just.
Right. Right. If you hire a outside private search company, it's significantly more than that. So,
Well, hopefully it goes smoothly. We get the best one, hopefully.
And I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the unrestricted budget amendments number 2 and number 3 for the Kent County Public Schools as presented.
Second.
And a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. And now we're going to talk about FY 2025 non-recurring cost requests.
right. So, every year we are provided a form to submit for non-recurring cost requests from the county. And these are, costs that would not be rolled into MOE or the local appropriation share. So we rarely come and ask the commissioners for any money from non-recurring, but this year we are requesting money to install a chairlift at Henry Highland Garnett Elementary School. We do have a student that is disabled and confined to a wheelchair, and she will be moving upstairs to classrooms upstairs. And so this would be a permanent chairlift that would transport the student from the first floor to the second floor. As you know, we don't have an elevator, we don't have any way to transport a child who's disabled and permanently confined to a wheelchair. So this would address the ADA accommodation that we're required to install.
And what do you think you need for that?
It's $74,248. That includes purchase and installation.
Any questions?
I have a question.
I was gonna say, yeah,
I have a question.
and I'll follow up.
It seems to me that because of the nature of this equipment that is needed, certainly we want to be able to provide that child transportation up and down the steps. Has anyone looked at identifying any grant money that would help pay for some of this?
You know, we looked at some of our existing aging schools money, but we have boilers. All of the boilers in our elementary schools are going to have to be replaced next year, so we're using all of that money to replace the boilers, which is going to be a significant cost to us. We don't have, we've expended all of our ESSER money. We've utilized most of the ESSER money and our Maryland Leads money to offset a lot of the costs moving forward to relieve our operational budget. In other words, to purchase instructional materials, to purchase computer replacement, those types of things. So there are no other grant monies that we would have that would pay for this. We've explored that.
Or is there anything new that we could go after, potentially?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, we've really, looked at that.
Couch, if I'm not mistaken, that you do carry what now is a pretty sizable fund balance. Would it come out of that?
Well, I mean, it could, but we're planning on using a significant amount of that in FY '25 budget.
Well, fund balance, it would be a lot easier if you take one-time expenditures, as we all know, and use it out of the fund balance instead of, that's kind of what it's there for. That's just where I would think it might be appropriate use of it.
It's our request, so it's certainly in your purview to approve or not.
Well, the idea of approving it or not approving it, I think, is a no-brainer. We obviously have got to we want to make sure everybody's well taken care of at the schools. It's just a matter of where the money comes from, and it would just make sense to me that it would come out of the fund balance. That's because we have a pretty sizable fund balance in the Board of Ed right now. But that's me.
So this is an FY '25 request. I'm assuming that this installation for this chairlift would take place over the summer?
Right, we would, if this is considered a one-time purchase, so if this is approved and submitted to MSDE, then we would go ahead and request and order the equipment and get that installed during the summer.
But if we waited until the budget struck, with a, we're going to do what we have to do to accommodate this job, because that's our obligation and our commitment. But do we have time to wait to order this equipment until after we talk about the school budget?
According to Mr.
In other words, I want to see
Right.
what might be available,
Right,
as Commissioner Fithian said.
right.
Would there possibly be some fund balance money?
According to Mr. Bish, we're going to have to, in order for it to be ordered and installed and ready for the student in the fall, we're going to have to make some commitments fairly soon, May at the latest.
Can you give us a status report on your fund balance currently?
Well,
I know, look, I know I'm asking some tough questions.
well,
but
yeah, I know, and I'm going to be prepared to talk about that when I present our budget to you in April. We planned on using fund balance this year to strike our budget, which we were fortunate enough not to have to utilize all of that, because we had positions like you all do as well that we could not fill. Those are positions that we're going to have to fill, but we were unable to fill this year. So it's something that we'll have to put in the budget for next year. Like, we were down a music teacher, we were down ESL teachers. So, we had a number of positions that we were unable to fill. Social workers were one of them, too. We had a social worker that passed away at the beginning of the school year, and we did not fill right away. So we're going to have to plan on those positions for next year. So we're going to have to roll that money over. We are not going to have enough, and this is kind of preempt in a way, but we're not going to have enough to do what we need to do for next year in FY '25 with the existing money that we get from the state and what's projected to get from the county to implement the things that we're mandated to do. So we're planning on using at least $800,000, if not more, of our fund balance, which, as you know, is not sustainable moving forward. So we're going to have to plan on what we utilize in FY '25 and then have enough to cover that in FY '26, and then I don't know what happens after that. So, we're trying to think ahead and not financially strap the school system, but we also know that we have obligations that we have to do with the state mandates.
And I just want to add,
Using, going forward, to use that fund balance money is a little dangerous as well.
is very
We're
dangerous.
using one-time money for reoccurring expenses.
Yep,
Which is, if you want to dig a hole, that's a good way of digging it.
right.
So, look, this is a piece of equipment that's certainly necessary. I'm sure that you've exhausted all ideas of how you could keep this individual on the ground floor and that's probably been hashed out before, so but if it was up to me, I would approve the expenditure, but it would have to come out of that fund balance. The last time I looked, if I'm not mistaken, you're somewhere around the $3 million mark.
No, we're
In
not.
fund balance.
No, we're not.
Well, we'll have to dig into that when we get into the
Yep.
budget, but that
That's-
would be my
that's inaccurate.
recommendation. But
and just
to my
to note,
colleagues.
just to note, because I didn't add it to the memo, and I should note, any of the non-recurring cost requests, it's due to the state by March 31st. So that's why we came to you for this request, and it has to be signed by the superintendent of schools and the president of the county. So it has to be approved and sent to the state by March 31st.
Any questions or ideas from the board, from my colleagues?
I'm just curious to know what the fund balance is, if it's not,
On our financial statements, it's about $2.1 million.
Right,
So it's not 3 million.
but it is 2.1.
yep. It's about 2.1. We're going to use probably 800,000 to $1 million for FY '25. So then that leaves a little bit of cushion to cover for FY '26, which will have the hole that we'll have to fill in. So, I mean, essentially, it's going to be used up.
But then when you use that money and you increase the budget, and then a year or two down the road is when we really get hit with this Kerwin money, then we've raised the bar, and I think in years to come, 1.4, $1.3 million, and it's year after year now for a while, after 2027, I think is. So by using this fund balance money, we're increasing the bar, and then we got to put $1.3 million or $1.4 million on top of that. It's going to be quite a struggle.
Right. But I don't know how else you strike a
Well,
budget
I think that's some of
unless,
the questions that comes with Kerwin. I mean, are we going to abide by Kerwin, or are we going to do it a different way?
Well,
Or
what
a
do you-
mixture of both.
what do you mean do it a different way?
What's that?
What do you mean do it a different way? I'm just confused.
I'm not exactly sure, because I'm not sure anybody from the top to the bottom completely understands this Kerwin, because it's a moving target, and nobody can get a clear message about it. But when you go, I'm just gonna say, when you go using inflating the budget with one-time money, it's gonna make our future harder to deal with when
Well,
it comes to funding the Board of
correct.
Education. Now, this
And-
year, as you're well aware, we don't owe much for the school board this year.
Correct.
It's a very small, probably the smallest amount that I've done in my 26 years.
Right.
But a year or two down the road, it becomes one of the larger, and it stays that way for quite a while. So I know we're gonna be getting into the budget, and we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Right.
But we're gonna have to look at that in a very serious manner as to, are we heading in the right direction? Or are we gonna be able to do what we're setting the stage for us to be able to do? I don't know.
So what I would say is, when you say inflate the budget, what we'll be presenting to you, and again, we're talking about budget ahead of time, but we're only adding 2 new positions. We're projecting to add one at Rock Hall Elementary School for classrooms that have exceeded 35 students in a class. Projecting to add a math teacher at the high school. We're adding additional monies for operational costs that have increased, like utilities and those types of things. Putting in money to pay for dual credit, which we're required to pay for the blueprint for our students that are taking classes at the community college and also at Washington College. And then the rest is to provide salary increases to our employees, which we have to meet the $60,000 starting salaries for teachers by FY '27. So we are under the gun to meet that starting salary. So there's not, I mean, if you want us to figure out a way to strike a budget, then that means we're going to have class sizes of 35 to 40 in all of our schools, because there's no other way for us to develop a balanced budget unless we
But the
use.
Kerwin bill is what's driving this whole thing. I mean, look, from the day that they went into and started doing maintenance of effort, and telling us what we had to basically give, because it couldn't be any less, I've always argued, look, I can remember years back when, in the late 90s, how far that's been. 98, 99, 2000, somewhere. This board approved as much as $1.5 million for the school board for that year, when Ms. Fay Miller was here and Dr. Costello. And then they changed it, and, because I always thought, you know, the years that we done real well, we gave a lot of money to the school system, knowing that next year, if we didn't do well, we could cut it way back. But these kind of bills now have taken all of that flexibility away from us, and we've got to be even more careful now as to what we spend, knowing that what's coming down the road, and we have no choice in it. So, I mean, we're here today to talk about this staircase, or stair lift. But when we get into the budget, we're gonna have to do some more talking. That's my opinion.
Right.
Because I think we're really would be setting ourselves up for some real problems in the future.
Right.
So how we want to deal with the chairlift? Which I totally agree, and I think my colleagues agree that it's something that's got to be
It's
done.
necessary. But I do agree with what Commissioner Fithian said when it comes to reoccurring money or non-reoccurring money. And I've had this conversation last year when we talked about the budget, either when you and I met personally together privately or whatever, just to talk about things, or maybe even in a public meeting like here.
Probably both.
Probably both.
Yeah.
I told you at the time that this Board of Commissioners, I felt, would do whatever they had to do to make sure our children receive a quality education. Because you had concerns about spending your fund balance. Because you wanted that safeguard. And look, I get that. But I almost believe that that would be the appropriate way to pay for this chairlift now, to get it ordered and have it installed so that it's ready for next year, so that child can go up and down the steps. You know, that $74,000, that's something that if you can't make the, remaining fund balance work with your budget, then that's when I think you come back here to us and say, I tried, this is what I did, and I think that we would try to help you. But for now, if you're looking for a blessing to move forward with the stair lift, I think the way to do it is from fund balance for now. And if you have a shortfall, we're going to do what we can to try to help you.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It's under your purview, that's fine. We're just making the request.
I mean, I tend to agree with what Commissioner Fithian is saying. That's probably the appropriate funding source for now. Doesn't mean that if you fall short, that we're not going to try to help you, if we can.
So you want to put that in the form of a motion, John?
Well, they won't.
Albert, do you have anything you?
No, I kind of.
You agree, or?
No, yes, I agree. I think that
I
that's
know, we'll just
probably,
have to say there's no
right now,
request.
coming upon the budget like we are, I think right now, that's probably the best way to move forward for the citizens.
And when we get into the budget, well, things that can change. Maybe if we
Absolutely.
have an opportunity to replace that, whatever. But for now, we got to order the equipment. And the easiest way to do it, to make us all feel a little better, is to make sure you take it out of fund balance for the time being.
Because we don't know what we're facing. We don't know what we're going to have to work with. We still have, we have an obligation to fund our schools, but we also have an obligation to fund other operations of county government. And we have to, trust me, last year, it was a challenge. It was a juggling act trying to meet the needs of our county with a very limited amount of new revenue. And it's even going to get tougher as the years go on. But it's not that we don't support the public schools, it's just that we want to be very careful. It's just too early in the game, not really a game, I don't want to use the word game. It's too early in the budget process to allocate $75,000 basically. Well, we don't know what else we're facing at this point,
Right,
for us.
right. And this is actually MSDE's deadline, so, and this was
And we
just a
don't want to mess
request.
that up, so.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we allow the public school system, hopefully to use fund balance to purchase the chairlift for the Garnett Elementary School, and to have installation sometime over the summer, I guess.
Motion and have a second? Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Dr. Couch.
I do
I
have
have
one
one
piece of
quick
good, I do
question.
have one piece of good news, if you'll just
Okay,
bear
yeah.
with me for a
We
second.
need good news.
So it was at 10:40, the embargoed graduation data was released at MSDE. So I just wanted to, I can officially announce now that Kent County moved up in ranking for graduation rate. We were ranked 10th in the state this year. The new graduation rate was released, and we were ranked number 5 in the state, so.
Well, congratulations.
Very good.
Anyways, that was good news.
My other question,
Yeah.
real quick, was, and I've been in the schools, but I didn't investigate. Does the middle school, when I was there,
They don't
Just a
have an
few years
elevator.
ago.
They don't have an
Um,
elevator either.
okay, and the high school,
They do.
I thought
They
that they
do.
had one put in,
Yeah,
but it
they
wasn't.
do.
It wasn't.
I
there.
think prior to my arrival to Kent County, it was on the list of things for the county to help the school system
Gotcha.
install, and then monies were withdrawn.
Okay.
So that never did get installed.
Gotcha.
So in talking about the middle school.
Yeah.
Got any hints about any,
The legislation obviously is dead. And so, when we initially introduced the legislation, we were hopeful that we would get it done in a year. But in reality, it often takes 2 years to get legislation through Annapolis. And it was very political in a lot of ways, because there were some counties that were saying, well, if Kent County gets a higher rate of participation from the state, it's going to take away from our projects. And it would, because there is a pot of money that is allocated to the state for the IAC to distribute for construction, public school construction projects. So, but it would be so minimal for other counties that they would lose in order to give Kent County more. And what I expressed to the chair of the Appropriations Committee is, this is not unprecedented. It was done for Garrett County. Garrett County was in a similar situation. They had a similar bill that was introduced, although they had a very powerful senator that carried the bill. And they were allocated $80,000 to complete a construction project that was very much needed in their county. So I think that there is no doubt that the state supports this project for Kent County. The state IAC, not the legislature, obviously. So they are very much pushing forward with wanting us to stay on track with moving forward with the project. But the reality is, it's kind of an either or. It's not like we can ignore the middle school and do nothing, because the middle school there has to be some monies allocated for the middle school at some point in time. Either you fix what you have, or you build something new. And Dr. Lever and I really and I'll share that with you when I come and present the budget. But, it's going to be a significant investment either way. Either you go new, or you fix what you have. and it's still going to be a significant amount of expenditure for the county. So, now the IAC is in the process of changing or gathering data to change their state participation numbers. And we anticipate that Kent counties will improve. In other words, that the state will, it won't be a 50-50 match, it'll be greater from the state. What that looks like moving forward, I don't know, because they're gathering their data. One of the things that Dr. Lever said is that the current ranking in terms of what school systems have to pay is very antiquated. It has not been addressed in over, 30 years, the change in terms of what counties have to pay and what state has to pay. So it's overdue, and it does need to be changed. We believe that because we have, all of our schools are on the CEP program, which is the community eligibility provision, meaning all of our kids get free lunch and free breakfast. We believe that that should qualify us to get more monies from the state, but until the IAC completes their, their process in terms of determining what it looks like, I don't know what that means for Kent County.
Any idea when they're going to have that evaluation
I think they're going to
done?
be releasing some preliminary data next year in FY '25. So I don't know when, I think it'll have to go through a review process, and it'll have to be presented amongst school systems and counties to comment on, and then probably it would go into effect in FY '26.
And I tell you, this part just drives me crazy, because we've been trying to fight that wealth formula that drives this whole thing, as far as Kent County being a wealthy county. If Wycomico County or Somerset County today decided that they were going to build a new school, it would not cost their taxpayers one dime. The state would fund it, 100%. Baltimore City, 96%, their taxpayers only have to pay 4%. A little county of Kent County with less than 20,000 people would have to pay, with an $80 million school, would have to pay $40 million of it. That formula cannot be right. One session, the board that I served with, I think was back with the Mike Noonan, we went to Baltimore and took this up with the State Board of Education. One of us has been to the Speaker of the House, the Senate President, the Chairman of the Appropriations Committee, and we get the same answer all the time. They will tell us, we will talk to you about anything you want to talk about, but we will not talk about that wealth formula. And it's my belief that the reason they don't want to talk about it is because they can't justify it. And I think they're afraid that if they listen, 87% of our land mass in agriculture, and we're all of what you just pointed out about all of our students getting free and reduced lunches and all that, we are I forget, 18th as far as, no, we're in 18th place as far as yearly income throughout the state. Every indicator that shows wealth, we're way down the scale, but according to that wealth formula, we're a wealthy county. There can't be $40 million difference between us and Wycomico or Somerset County. I don't think that's right, and I don't think they want to talk about it because I don't think they can justify it. That's my opinion.
Well,
And we've been dealing with it for years.
one of the things that I tried to advocate to the governor's office, which I thought I had a welcoming ear about it, and then it just died again this year, so that's something I've talked to the board about that we have to really pick up and move forward, is there currently in statute, there is a formula to help small community colleges. There's, the way they fund community colleges is there is funding for small community colleges, medium-sized community colleges, and large community colleges. And so there's an extra state allocation that comes to small community colleges. So there's something already in place. And what happens is, right now, if you look at the formula that funds public school systems in Maryland, it doesn't work for Kent County. It doesn't, because of the economy of scale. We are so small that there is not enough money that comes from the state that helps support our schools. And so at some point, I mean, the rubber's going to meet the road. If we continue to lose students, if we continue to get small, then, I mean, you know, I don't think there's another school to close. I think at some point, it may have to result in, you know, is Kent County going to be able to be a viable school system? And if not, what does it look like moving forward? So I think that, you know, unfortunately, that's kind of where we're at. And I spoke to the governor's office about what can you do to help a small school system like Kent County, because the funding formula does not work for us. And
Couldn't agree more.
I thought we had a very welcoming ear, and through the late last spring, through the early summer, it was like, yeah, we're going to look at this. We can, you know, we've already got a mechanism in statute. We can move forward with this. And then when it came time to have a discussion, late September, October, nothing was going to be done.
I
So,
tell you the truth,
I don't understand
I
it.
honestly think there's a couple graphs that I keep in my drawer at home all the time, and one of them's about that school construction, just how we have to pay 50% of a new school, but there's a bunch of people that are in the 85 to 100% bracket where the state pays all of that. I mean, that amount.
Understand.
And then there's also the per pupil funding. I think that ought to be published in the paper, because people would be, I think the public would be outraged if they really understood. You know, with Kent County, we were like in third place, at least the last time I saw it. We were in third place as far as per pupil funding, and Somerset and Baltimore City, I think, were 1 and 2. But if you look at where the money comes from, us in third place, the very lion's share of that amount comes from the local taxpayers, where in Somerset or Baltimore City, it's a very little bit. Some of them $2,000 or $3,000 per pupil, where we're paying $11,000 or something like that per pupil out of our. It's just not fair the way Kent County's treated with this whole scenario.
Well, and just to keep in mind that part of that is due to the economy of scale. Because when you have a school like Rock Hall that only has 187 students, you have the same operating costs as if that school was filled up with 300 kids. So when you divide the dollars, it's going to be a higher per pupil cost because of the economy of scale.
But
So
that's
all
not what I'm
saying
talking
is
about.
you
I'm
gotta-
talking about, I know it's the cost is there. What I'm talking about is who is the one that has to pay it.
Right.
And a lot of these counties, the state bends over backwards. When you build a school for free for a county and then tell us we got to pay 50% of it, that's an enormous difference. It can't be that much difference just because we got some smaller schools. I just think it's outrageous the way that Kent County's treated, and I've been around here for a long time and watched it, and it's not getting any better.
I would agree.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to follow up on one thing or actually two questions I have. You said that at some point, maybe Kent County might have to look at how they're going to sustain a public school system. Do you have any ideas?
Well, well, I do, but I don't know if you want to hear them.
I do want to hear it. That's why I'm asking.
And I've heard Dr.
I mean-
Couch mention it before, and I think we as a board have talked about, I mean, how long can we go?
I mean,
I
I've
mean,
had
there's
people-
only one solution
I've had
that we
people-
have, and that is merging with another school system. I mean, I'll
Another
just throw it
county.
out there.
Another county, which
Or
I've heard.
dividing it up, and listen, it's never been done. In the state that I came from, it was never a county school system. It was, you drew the lines that made sense to sustain a school system, and the school system where I was superintendent I was a tri-county it was a tri-county school system. So we had Bernalillo County, Santa Fe County, parts of Bernalillo, parts of Santa Fe, and parts of Torrance County. So it was, what drew the lines to make sense.
And
But
the
if,
school boards were their own taxing authority.
right,
So,
but,
so the people that decided the budget were directly accountable to the people. You didn't have the layer that you have here.
right. So what happens is if Maryland's gonna keep it as a county school system, then the only way to change that is through legislation. So, moving forward, if in fact Kent County is not a viable county to sustain itself, then it would have to come through legislation. Legislation would have to be established by our delegation, and some decisions would have to be made whether we merge with one county or we merge with two counties, like a portion goes to Cecil and a portion goes to Queen Anne. It still would not relieve Kent County from paying their share for the school system. You would just have to divide it up and pay for it in other counties.
And obviously, this conversation, what we're talking about is certainly premature, but it is,
Totally
it is
premature.
something that.
You might have to
that
look
you
at
may
in the
have to
future.
look at. But to relieve everybody, it's not sending the kids to different counties. It could be as simple as just,
Well, you wouldn't know that because,
well, we don't know it.
You
but
don't- I mean,
I
it's-
don't want
it's-
everybody to think that we're getting ready to start sending our kids to Queen Anne's County
Right.
or Cecil County, because maybe we just use their administration or
You
something.
combine resources.
well,
It's kind of like the regional jail thing that Kent County's engaged in right now with Caroline and Queen
right.
Anne's.
I mean, it all would have to be ironed out. It's a very complicated process. It is something that would obviously have to be worked on between two counties or three counties or whatever, whatever made sense. And ultimately, if that's what is decided, once you merge with another county, that county, would actually have say in terms of what they do with schools or students or transportation or whatever.
Well, there would probably be a board that would be the authority to oversee the district or whatever.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would think.
yeah.
So, and like Commissioner Fithian said, we're not proposing that currently.
Yeah.
I don't
No.
want anybody to think that. It's just, I have had several people mention it to me that, it might be an option down the road.
It's certainly something that may have to be looked at
And it may end up being actually forced on us at some point.
at some point, unless the state recognizes the
Steps
fact
up.
that this funding formula is not favorable to small school systems. It's just not, especially when a majority of the money comes from the county. You've got a small school system like Somerset, and most of their funding comes from the state. So it works for them.
Yeah, it would work for us too.
I know it would, that's what I'm saying. It works for them, but it doesn't work for us.
We've been screaming about that as long as I've been sitting behind this desk, but it doesn't seem, but nobody from, I can't tell you, I just mentioned a few of them, but nobody will talk to you about that issue.
Well, no one talks to me either.
We have tried and tried and tried, but nobody will talk to us.
Well, it seems like you get, like I said, you get an interested ear. I thought I had someone that was very excited about looking at some different, and I provided a very lengthy research project in terms of looking at what other states do to fund their small school systems. And we're one of the few states that doesn't recognize, nor do they provide additional funding for small school systems. So I provided all of those data points to the governor's office, and I thought, I had some people interested, and it went radio silent come the end of September.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
I have one additional question.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I would like to know our community college. I had heard at one point in time that they had recently increased their fees to our students. Is that true? And if it is, Are we working to resolve it, or, all this is part of the Kerwin,
The blueprint, yes,
one of the pillars,
right.
is that our 10th graders are allowed to go to the community college and take courses. And when all this came about, now I understand that, and our community college is obviously Chesapeake
And Washington College, too.
and Washington College, but I
Right.
mean,
So, yes and no. When the blueprint was implemented last year, we only had to pay for tuition and books. This year, we had to pay for tuition, books, and fees. The fees that we incurred from Chesapeake College were almost as much as the tuition and books. That is common knowledge. The fees at Washington College, on the other hand, were not nearly as cumbersome. So a group of us superintendents that send students to Chesapeake College, we had a meeting with the president, and we were dismayed at the fees that were allocated to school systems because, to be quite honest with you, we felt like we were the cash cow. And so it was very discouraging for us that all of a sudden, that because in legislation it says you pay for the fees, now we were stuck with this bill. Some of my colleagues, on the other hand, refused to pay the bill. And so they were so upset about it. So we took our plight to the AIB, which is the Accountability Implementation Board for Blueprint. And there is legislation that I think is going to pass that's in place right now. And if it passes, then I think there will be some significant guardrails up, because when we had an opportunity to meet with Dr. Kerwin and also Rachel Heiss about our concern about the fees that we were being assessed, and it wasn't just us. I mean, there are fees in other community colleges around the state that surprise school systems because we never had to pay those fees before.
And I'll bet you that when Chesapeake College got the notice that they were going to be cut by 10%, I bet that was a surprise to them as well.
I don't know. I'm not going to speak for
Would be if
him.
it was yours, so.
Yeah, I'm not going to speak about his thing, but anyways. So, this legislation that, if it passes, will limit the amount of fees that community colleges can assess school systems. And I haven't really studied the legislation to see what it would mean for us, but I think it would significantly reduce our obligation to our community colleges. The other thing that we raised as superintendents was the fact that I was concerned about the fact that many of the classes at Chesapeake College were delivered through asynchronous learning. Asynchronous learning is, for our students that are taking classes, basically they have no live instructor. So let's say I'm taking English 101.
it's a software program.
You complete a module, and you complete the assignments, and you turn it in, and then somebody grades it, and you get a grade. Listen, the state legislature limited school systems' ability to provide asynchronous learning to their students, to our students. So my comeback is, why is it okay for us to have that kind of instructional delivery at our post-secondary schools when we're not even allowed to do that at K through 12? And some of the community colleges said, well, that's what our students want. Our students want asynchronous learning. Well, I would attest to the fact that maybe adults would like asynchronous learning, but we're talking about students that are still in high school, that are taking courses. And I do not believe, this is me, Karen Couch talking, I do not believe that that is the best delivery for our students.
And I agree with you 100%.
So I really believe that if we are going to support our community colleges by paying for instruction, then we ought to get our money's worth in terms of what works best for our students. So I don't know, there isn't anything. I was hoping there would be something in the bill about asynchronous versus synchronous learning, and there's nothing in there. So I don't know what, what it looks like moving forward, but I do know that there are supposed to be opportunities for us to get our own staff to teach dual credit courses at the high school. And so we're working on trying to get some of our staff certified to do that. There's a problem with how they get paid, if you will, with the community colleges, because it's kind of like they have like two masters. They have to submit paperwork and grades to the community college versus the school system. So I don't know how that'll all work out in moving forward. But I do know that at the high school that was in my community before, where I was superintendent, we had 80% of our teachers teaching dual credit courses for our students. And it was a marvelous opportunity for our kids because they didn't have to go anywhere. They could get the courses right on campus, and our teachers were teaching the courses. And so that, to me, is the best way to do it. There's not going to be any fees. We don't have to make any money. It's just a way of providing opportunities for our kids to get college courses. But I don't think we're there yet, and hopefully we'll get there in the future, but we're not there yet. So I think that we're also limiting the number of courses that our students can take. The other thing that was alarming to me is that students, because they could take dual credit courses, were signing up for courses that we didn't know about, and we found out about it only after we got the bill. And so it was like, if we're going to do that, we should kind of have a little bit of control about what these students are taking. So Mr. Porter has worked with the counselors, and we've put in place some guardrails so that, kids are not just taking, I'm just making something up right now, like a pottery class. That's not offered at Chesapeake College, but I'm just going to throw something out there like that. It had nothing to do with a pathway or that would take them to an
Accountability.
associate's degree, which is what the blueprint is about, is to have early college opportunities for our kids so that they can get a degree and graduate, with a maybe associate's degree and a high school diploma.
Which I like that opportunity.
It's great.
I just resent the fact that now all of a sudden you all are being hit with all these fees.
Right. And so
Because to me, somebody's, and maybe this is a poor choice of words, but this is a money grab.
Right, well,
And
we're the cash cow. So, and so that's part of the budget that we have to strike for next year is we know that we're going to have probably an additional $60,000 in place in our budget just to pay for dual credit, even with the guardrails that we put in place.
because currently you're 60,000 now.
No, currently, next year, which doesn't make sense to me, we're going to see less money to pay for dual credit, and we're going to have more students that are going to take dual credit. So we project that we're going to be underfunded. And every school system is going to be underfunded in dual credit next year. So, that's just another little thing. But, yeah. The whole idea with dual credit, it was a great idea. I love the idea, but it was great on paper, but in application, it doesn't make sense right now.
I think welcome to Kerwin, the confusion.
Yeah.
It just seemed ridiculous.
Thank you for answering those tough questions.
No, that's fine. I'm fine.
And just while we're ball venting here a little bit, and this is of no fault of anybody's, but we had to consolidate our schools, we had to close some schools. But I tell you, I think when I went to school, I believe that I got up at 7:30 in the morning to get to school about 8 or something like that, and the school started at 8:30. My grandson in Rock Hall, he gets up 5:30 in the morning to catch a 6 o'clock bus to go to school. I doubt if I'd have made it through school either when I was 12 or 14 years old. That's early for for kids to have to get up, I think.
Right.
But
Well-
that's one of the consequences, of a rural area. I understand all that.
Well,
but-
and that's kind of the consequences in terms of not having the funding to purchase all the buses that we need to run, buses that would transport everybody at the same time. We have to have a layered delivery system. In other words, we had to deliver the secondary kids first, and then we use those same buses to deliver our elementary kids. So if we wanted to change that, you'd have to buy 10 more buses. At $150,000 a pop, that's probably not doable.
No, I understand, it's one of the consequences, but
Yeah.
when I was going to school, I didn't go out of Rock Hall. I went to elementary school in Rock Hall, went to
Right.
high school in Rock Hall, wasn't a middle school, so I was 15 minutes, or 5 minutes up the road.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
Anyhow,
thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for your hard work. I know you did a lot of work in
Yeah.
that, trying to secure that funding.
3 more months. 3 more months.
Well, I just mean in that.
3 more months.
And she's applauding.
I appreciate you.
Let's switch gears here from education to Mr. Brian DeGregory in State's Attorney's Office. Brian, welcome.
Good morning, gentlemen. It's good to see you all. I appreciate your time and the courtesy that you're extending us to present this request to you. And as you know, the request is for the Kent County Comprehensive Recidivism Reduction Project to contract with a grant writer to help us prepare the new request to fund the project in the coming year. And that deadline is April 19th. And so before we get into discussing the specifics of the proposal from the potential grant writer, Ms. Clark, the project manager from the Recidivism Reduction Project, or RRP, as we like to call it, because it's a lot easier to say RRP than say the Kent County Comprehensive Recidivism Reduction Project, which it is, and it's a proper title, but RRP is better. So with that, Ms. Clark, I thought it would be appropriate for her to give you kind of an update as to where the project stands, the success it's having, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so here's a flyer for you guys that we distribute to our participants. I started working as the project manager with our partners on October 1st, and on November 2nd, we hired Christine Chisholm right over here, the case manager. And we have enrolled 63 participants into the project as of today. With participants, we collaboratively create plans for their success to stay out of the court system and being incarcerated. We then work diligently with them to accomplish their goals. We connect them to benefits, behavioral health screening and services. We screen and connect them to housing services, job applications, to obtain a bank account. We support them to complete their community service, get their licenses reinstated or revocations removed. We support their driver's education, driver's improvement if needed, learner's permits, driver's licenses, and all vitals, birth certificates, social security cards, and photo IDs. We also support them to obtain transportation services to get these appointments. Very, very crucially important. We have great partners, including Second Chance Learning, who provides GED support and workforce development, which is really extraordinary. Striving for Wellness Together, providing therapy and adult services, very important. Richard Lewis Consulting, providing peer-to-peer support in the detention center and out. And Menares Dream Alliance, providing mentorship and workforce development as well. Christine and I are on the ground every day, working with participants to accomplish their goals. Having someone to help us write the grant for next year will enable us to expand this project to create the needed services to our residents here in Kent County. Thanks.
So and that's a summary of what's going on. It's been quite a success. We're learning a lot. The narrative has remained the same, but there are things you learn when you implement a project that you didn't foresee. So we've adjusted as we've gone along. We've done some adjustments to the budget in the grant, where transportation became very critical. We knew it would be important. We didn't know how important. It's vitally important. So we were able to adjust in that regard to incorporate transportation into part of what we're trying to provide, and in regards to services to individuals to get them on their feet so they can be successful in the community rather than coming back into the judicial system and then back into the prison system. So in many respects, it's been super successful. We want to continue that success. We don't want this to be a one and done. And from our perspective, a grant writer, they just have the knowledge, the wherewithal to write a grant that has a chance of being more successful. So we want to swing for the fences here. We want to hit a home run when it comes to the second year round to get this grant. And we want to have the right person on the team, so to speak, to help us do that. And I think that having a grant writer, contracting with this grant writer, Ms. Thomas, would give us the best chance of ensuring that we will get refunded for the coming year. And I think it's critical to continue the work we're doing. I mean, we just got started, and we're seeing a lot of fruits of our labor, and in particular from Ms. Clark and Ms. Chisholm's labor. They are critical to this whole project. And the relationships they're building with the community and with the individuals that are in the project are key. So for all these reasons, that's why we're making this request. And we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do you have any stats on your, success or?
We don't have specific numbers on reduction necessarily, no. We just have the number of people that are in the project and are participating in the project. I know Ms. Clark might be able to speak more specifically to any numbers we may have.
63 participants, yeah, for these past 2 quarters. So we do have performance measures, how many folks we have connected to behavioral health services, how many folks we've created, given to vitals or driver's education, driver's licenses. So we have performance measures and a progress report that I do every 3 months. So I'm just coming upon the 3rd one for quarter 3. And yeah, I mean, I think we're doing incredibly, very, very good and successful work. I mean, we're getting very positive feedback from participants. They are quite astounded, and also public defenders and lawyers are very impressed that this project is doing what it's doing, that it exists, that it's there. We're in the court, at district court, Monday, Wednesdays, often Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays also, just, meeting the folks right then and there at their hearings, doing the intakes, talking with them, creating the plans, and making that connection, and are, on a daily basis in contact with these folks. So, these folks are probably under the most stress of any of our residents here in Kent County. They are facing evictions, they're facing unemployment, when they are charged, they lose their jobs. They're facing, no driver's license, they have to pay child support in order to lift the suspension. There's a lot of pressure, and we very diligently and specifically walk them through each step slowly to gain success, to feel accomplished, to go forward. And it works. It's very empowering, I think, to them, and very satisfying for me anyway, to see how they are able to go forward with just a little bit of attention, a little bit of, just guidance, support, and that's what we're providing. It really is not complicated, but it requires time, it requires attention. We are not just working 9 to 5, Chrissy and I. We are working on the weekends, we are working in the mornings, we're working at night, because we want to be especially attentive to folks when they need us the most. And they do reach out to us when they need us. And we are there. And that's very, very powerful. That is not what they are getting they have gotten most of their life, right? So it's a big change. And that's the impression, I think, that it's going to make on the community, and on the system, that it will change the shift, it will shift how many folks are going into the jails, how many folks are being charged. If all the folks who didn't have driver's licenses were able to go through a process to get their driver's license, that would take care of a lot of the docket. I mean, the docket is a lot of driving without a license, right? But not only that, maybe they have some substance use issues, and maybe nobody's really been there for them to really walk them through going to in-treatment or going to their outpatient meetings, or connecting them to the mental health, or connecting them from, being incarcerated and having some services to going out and having no services at all. So we're really there in that space to guide them and connect them into being a responsible adult in our community. And that's not too hard, but it requires love and attention.
Yeah, so
If you get this grant, what exactly are you getting?
So
Dollar-wise?
hopefully, yeah.
well, the same amount, and I'm sorry, off the top of my head, I can't say it, 200 and a little over 200,000 was the initial request. Now, we are going to be meeting and discussing changes that need to be made to the request, and in part why we want a grant writer, because what we've learned through the process of the first year, what works, what doesn't work, what we need, and what we need to add to the whole project. So with that, there might be a request for additional dollars, depending on where falls. So we have to, sit down and discuss the nuts and bolts. But yeah, roughly around the same amount, somewhere in the vicinity from 200, my guess would be 200 to 250,000 in a grant request. But I don't want to be married to that number, because we won't know until we sit down and restructure with the writer, the grant writer, if we're allowed to contract with this grant writer, and have her help us, through that process and guide us through it. So it's properly presented.
And if you receive the grant, if it's like last year's grant, I think there's a county match to it.
Well, I think, not a match, no, there was something with, possibly with benefits. There was, and again, I remember this discussion when we first came before you gentlemen to request a grant with the grant writer. And if I'm not mistaken, and I don't know for certain, I think that those additional funds that the county had to pay out, I want to say it was roughly $10,000.
That sounds about right.
Right. Could be incorporated into the grant, and could have been written in such a way that it could have been avoided based on prior requests by the county for grants. So I don't know if that's been designed, or it was designed through the process of requesting grants in the past year, so that can be avoided this time around. What I do know is a grant writer will be able to advise us to maximize our effort in regards to this request. And of course, what I would absolutely want to do is to avoid any cost to the county with this. I mean, that's why we're going through a grant process to fund this project to begin with. And we want to keep it renewed. So the grant writer will not only help us with that, will also help us know how to structure it in such a way to avoid possibly that cost. I don't know if that's absolutely doable, but I know that a grant writer is the type of person that you want to help you figure that out.
So she might be able to, if I may, incorporate her cost to work with us to get more funding for this project within the next year's grant. But we don't have the money in this year's grant to pay for her now, if that's understandable. Right, she could integrate her services within the grant request for next year. So we wouldn't need to request any funds from you, because we will have already requested them within the grant.
That's also true. That can be done. That I'm certain of. But in regards to the cost of the county, as far as any matching dollars go, again, I think there's a way that can be incorporated into the grant as well. And because I'm not a grant writer, I can't speak specifically to it. And is part of the reason why I'm sitting here before you gentlemen, making this request to contract with the grant writer on a one-time basis, at least for now. And even if we were to contract into the future, it would be written into the grant to do that. So next time around, we wouldn't be sitting before you gentlemen. We can do that through the grant itself.
Any further questions?
Well, I would certainly like to encourage the grant writer to build that cost in
Well, absolutely.
to be reimbursed to the county or whatever.
Commissioner, I will absolutely do that. And also, as you see the contract, we're going to be as efficient as we can with the grant writer. It's an hourly basis, and you saw what the max amount is. But we hope to come in below that amount. So that's my goal as well. So to be as efficient as possible across the board.
So I'm assuming, Hope, you're the one that provides the progress report on the
Yes.
grant?
Yes, yeah.
So when you actually prepare that, and I don't know when your deadline is for that reporting, I think the three of us would like to see the progress, or maybe get Hope to come in to present.
Certainly.
Because we'd like to know, if we're going to invest in this program, we'd like to, number one, know that it's actually working.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And
So-
I don't doubt that you're not doing a good job. I just would like to see
Yeah, the numbers.
exactly your success story.
Certainly, then we're going to have to have those numbers when reapplying. or when asking for the second year of funding.
Right.
So that's going to be part of the process of preparing for the request for the upcoming year, so.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that we don't have a grant writer on staff, but we did it
Right.
one time.
If you-
Right,
If you
right,
consider it in the
that's part of-
future, I'm 100% behind that, just so you know. I think that's a brilliant idea.
Well, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the request to hire a grant writer using contingency funds not to exceed $6,000 for the continuation of the recidivism reduction project.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
you.
gentlemen, very much.
Mr. Gregory, at one time, we also had a conversation about adolescents,
Yep,
juveniles.
yes.
Have you been able to incorporate anything there?
I think that's on the table for discussions in preparing the next request. Now, I don't know how much we can incorporate into this process, but we will do so. And what I don't want to do is I know the local management board, I think there are other agencies that are working with juveniles, but I think there's a way to work that into the narrative that, for a recidivism reduction project, because you and I have discussed, and it's why it's called comprehensive. It's from start to finish, right? It's not just when you walk out of the prison door, it's way earlier than that, prior to getting there, to intervene then, and to redirect individuals before they maybe even come into the system as an adult. So I think that's crucial. So we're definitely going to look into that, and having if the county were to consider adding a grant manager, that would be wonderful in that respect, in regards to juveniles as well, because then we can explore other grants, because there are a number of grants out there that I
Brian,
see
it's
come
not-
across my email.
It's not whether we want to proceed with a grant writer.
Oh,
We're actively
We're trying to find.
advertising for one and have been ever since we lost the last one.
Excellent.
It's just so, we're actively trying to get one because we obviously know the importance of it as well.
Okay.
So that's
So-
fantastic.
Thank
And when
you.
it comes to the juvenile issue, which is a statewide problem,
Sure.
intervention at that early age is so important. And sometimes, children get it at home, but a lot of times they don't get the intervention they need.
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing patterns, and we are also working with folks that have children, and so we are sort of understanding, and we've been requested actually by the local management board to come to the local care team meetings, right? Because some of the children of the folks incarcerated are affected. So it's all interwoven. I must say, I think we would need another case manager to do that. The level of work that Chrissy and I are doing right now are is very, very, very high. And that's another real big advantage of Maggie, if she could, write this grant with us to really articulate that need. And if we had another case manager, that would be over the top. We would really be able to focus then on much more of the big picture.
Are you sure you need another person? Because I've seen Chrissy at work before. She's extremely energetic.
Yeah, to say the least, right?
All right, well, good luck with the program.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And I hope you're successful with the grant.
Thank
you
you.
so much,
Appreciate it.
really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Miller.
Good morning. I was double checking. I have
Rachel, how are you?
I'm good, how are
Rachel
you?
with me, because Rachel is the recruiter on this particular item. You have all the details in the attachments. It's been a tricky one. The child development teacher's been a very challenging job to fill, particularly over the year that I've been here. It's a tough one to find somebody that fits the bill and can do what's needed in in the center. But we found a good candidate. You have all the details. Rachel's here to answer any questions you might have about the candidate or the process.
Any questions?
Yeah, question. I don't know
If there's no questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommended candidate to fill the child development teacher position in the Kent Family Center for a conditional employment offer.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
gentlemen.
you.
Dan Mattson, Director of Public Works. Talk about surface treatment contract to start with.
Yes, sir. I have two items today. The first is the FY '24 surface treatment contract for the County Roads Division. The item today is the official award of that contract. As done in the past, we would be piggybacking off of a contract from Howard County, Maryland, with American Paving Fabrics Incorporated. I believe I had previously mentioned, but earlier this fiscal year, money was diverted from the program to fund the Clark Road improvements. We have identified funding within the diesel fuel budget based on the usage through the winter that would allow us to transfer money back into this program and bring it whole with what was originally budgeted. So we will be doing the full budgeted road surface treatment program this year. The total contract value is $330,766. That's the estimate of work. It will fund a total of 28 roads, at least portions of 28 roads, in a length over 12.5 miles at $2.25 a square yard of surface treatment. And we are requesting approval to execute the contract and complete work within this fiscal year.
Any questions?
I had one just observation here, Dan. Look, in looking at the roads, it looks like a couple of them are in Chesapeake Landing. And I just wanted to make, some of the roads in Chesapeake Landing are dead ends and don't have any houses in them yet. And I would just, hopefully, we're not considering redoing any of the ones that are, don't have any residences on those roads yet. That's.
You are correct. There is a couple different strategies at play simultaneously when developing the road program. Obviously, the worst roads within the road's worst condition are highest priorities. There are some instances where if we're doing the majority of roads in one area, we may complete that area entirely so that, on a 10, 15, 20-year cycle, the equipment is certain sectors of the county at once. And there's also, as mentioned with the schools, economy of scale, where if the equipment will all be in one central area, we can more efficiently get work done.
Point taken, yeah.
Even if it's not purely the highest priority, it's the most efficient way for a multi-year program. So that your point is very valid, that certain roads, are lower priority by nature of their use. But we feel confident in the list that was compiled this year.
Any other questions? If not, I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve a piggyback contract with American Paving Fabrics Incorporated for surface treatment services of roads in the amount of $330,766 under existing Howard County, Maryland contract number 4400004869.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. What, before you go on,
I have one more item.
I know.
Oh, okay, yes.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead and talk about your item, and then I got something I want to discuss with you real quick.
Sure. So the second item is another contract award. This is for the potable water tank inspection and related engineering support services contract. This was bid out, I believe originally in December and January, on a qualitative bid. So we did receive 2 bids for the work. The base bid is for the 6 county-owned water tanks. There's 6 of them totaling about 750,000 gallons of water storage. There were separate items related to water tanks owned by the town of Galena and Millington. Galena had declined at the cost included. However, Millington will have their water tank inspected under this contract, and that effort will be funded by the town of Millington. It'll just be done under our contract to, again, lump services under one provider. The cost to the county is $21,000. The total contract value will be $25,000, inclusive of the $4,000 Millington is responsible for.
And you have money in your budget for that? Is that in the budget?
Yes.
I mean, that's.
This work was budgeted, correct?
I got you. So it's no additional request.
Correct.
Any questions?
So the $1,000, you can handle that within your budget.
Yeah, you are correct. There was $20,000 budgeted for the project. The total cost of the county will be $21,000. We will use existing departmental funds to cover the $1,000 overage.
And I might just point out too, and you might get with Shelley when she comes back, and Pat, we could pay it out of that ARPA money. We have some of that left. If that made things any easier, if it's part of next year's budget, it probably don't make any difference, but that probably robbing Peter to pay Paul somehow. I mean, we're still gonna use that ARPA money for something.
Yes.
Probably related to something like this, but, and anyhow, just forget that. I can talk myself out of that.
So I'd like to make a motion to award portable water tank inspection and related engineering support services contract to Munford Bjorkman Associates Incorporated for a total amount of $25,000.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it.
Did you have something?
Yes, the one, while we were talking about road treatment, and I don't know whether we'll get it done. I'm just gonna tell you my story and we'll see where it goes.
Okay.
It's been 2 years ago, Tilechester Community Association come in and asked for us to consider taking a couple roads into our county system. One of them's name is Virginia Avenue, and one of them is Ohio Avenue. If you turn on Virginia and you go to the end of it and make a circle, and go down to the bottom of it and go around a corner, you can turn left and go to their little beach, or you can turn right and come up Ohio Avenue. Virginia's not in too bad, it's in pretty good shape for a road down Tilechester Estates. It's in excellent shape. Ohio, not so much. Ohio needs some work that we could probably do, and the county years ago took in all of these roads, so it's not anything new that we're trying to invent here, because all your secondary roads at one time were not county, a lot of them were not county roads, but the county took them in and named them after people throughout the county. So what I guess to see if this project would work, it's gonna take your office and Mr. Mackey's office could be helpful maybe. Because you got it there, what they did when they took these roads in the past, and there may be a form available, but there used to be a form that every property owner on those roads had to sign off saying that they agreed with the stipulations that you put to, I guess, the width of the road, and then some places might take, the right-of-way might extend into somebody's yard. So everybody around that perimeter or around those two roads has to sign off on it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it isn't 100%, it doesn't get done. So I'd like for you to, at your convenience, take a look at it. I think Virginia could be done easy. Ohio would be some work that your crew could handle, the work it needs, I think, by grading, cutting the roads back a little bit, that kind of stuff. And I don't know whether you would need Bill's help with getting the names of the property owners around it, but if we could take a look at that, because just as Commissioner Nickerson pointed out, there's some roads in the tar and chipping project that probably could wait a while. So we wouldn't be adding anything else to the budget. We would just be taking 2 or 3 roads off and putting these 2 on. Now, why do we do that? I guess, we don't do much down in the Towchester area, or we're not asked to do too much, but this would be this was a request that they made under the prior board that I served with. When we take roads in, it does, not that we get a hell of a lot out of our highway user money anymore, because they've took all that. We get about 15% of it, but it's determined by the length of our county roads. So probably very, very little, but we would get, those 2 roads would be added into our system. If you could just take a look, you and the head of county roads or something, take a look at these 2 roads, maybe determine, is it doable, or is this something we don't want to get involved in? And I respect your opinion either way, but there was a group of about 5 or 6 citizens from the Towchester Community Association come in 2 or 3 years ago, a couple years ago, and made this request. So just if we could take a look at it and see if it's something we can handle, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
If my colleagues agree with this,
All right.
and we'll make up our mind. I'm not asking for a dime of nothing to be spent. Just go look at it, find out what it would be, what it would entail. And then we can make up our mind whether we move forward with it or not.
Sure, and I think.
Okay with that, John?
Yep.
Okay.
I think you mentioned some of the initial concerns that popped into my mind with the current road width and the right-of-way width, what we would need, what the impact to individual properties would be, obviously needing the sign-off. It would be it would require a very quick effort to have that included in this year's program.
And maybe it doesn't get included with this, but we're setting the stage for
Yes.
maybe next year.
Understood.
I just don't want their request to go unnoticed, or, they took the time to come in here with an issue. I'd like for us to at least take a look at it. I wasn't able to get that done in the last, 4 years prior to this, but I don't want them to go on. I want us to at least give it a shot, take a look at it. If it's out of our league, so be it. If it's not, then we can consider it.
Understood?
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Dan, I've got 2 things. First is, yesterday I wrote down just to see what the status of the granary was, and it's still standing. Someone has taken the fence down.
Yes.
Do you have an update on that?
Yes, the fence was removed to allow for the historical documentation performed by the University of Delaware Architects. That was about a month ago, and the building had its entries boarded up to provide some prevention of entry, as well as do not trespass signs. I expect that the demolition will start within the next week to 10 days. I'm waiting for the exact date, but it was next on the list of the contractor.
And they've agreed to do it for the same
Yes.
days? Good. I was contacted by a citizen that lives in the Rock Hall town limits,
Okay.
but their property butts up to county jurisdiction. And there's a ditch that, and I'm supposed to go down and take a look at it, but there's a ditch there that's on the county side. And I guess, and maybe Ronnie knows more about this, because I
Well, it
think,
originates on Haven Road.
yeah,
Go down about halfway down Haven Road, and it's on your right. And it goes on back through that woods, and that part's in the town. Maybe half of it is in the town, but then it runs into the county property, and it dumps out right at the head of what I call Spring Cove. It's the end of Spring Cove Road, before you go into Miss Madeline Rennie's marina. And it's well, John can tell you, but.
I don't know whether it's county-owned property or whether it's owned by Mrs. Rennie. Or
Could be
whether
a
it's
combination of.
Or whether it's a right-of-way through there, because apparently, and Ronnie could probably speak better about this, but apparently from what I've been told, a lot of the drainage from the town of Rock Hall, especially from Lake Pasta Plus and Shortstop North,
Yeah.
all that water drains through those ditches there. And of course, as you well know, we had an enormous amount of rain over the weekend. And this resident that lives there sent me pictures. I mean, it looked like they had a pond in their, right up next to their garage. And apparently this ditch, and there's a culvert there that allows people to cross over this ditch. Again, I don't know who it belongs to. And, you know, whether it's a county responsibility or whether it's a landowner's responsibility. Certainly, we don't want to go on someone's land and clean out a ditch, but if it's the county's responsibility, then it probably does need to be done, because the pictures I've seen, there's trees growing up in it, there's all kinds of things that are making it very, very difficult for that water to get through there.
Okay.
And drain.
It is, John's telling you the truth. I mean, it's trees growing up in it, but that ditch, that water comes from, like what John said, from Shortstop and goes down William Street, cuts across and goes down to Haven, and when it dumps in, there's a lot of water that goes down that, it takes a lot of water down to that ditch, and it dumps overboard down to Spring Cove. And I tell you, I've gotten the same call John has, and I've walked it before. And one of the places that is this walkway that John's talking about. It's right in the citizens' backyard that give both of us a call. And there's a walkway they got that goes over there. When I walk there, the blockage, not saying that the whole ditch needs something done, I'm not gonna argue that, but there's a culvert under that walkway, and if that was torn out, would probably alleviate some of the problem. But no doubt that ditch is all growed up with trees that big around, and, but I, as a commissioner, I never knew who in the devil to talk to about a project like that, because probably half of that ditch is in the town of Rock Hall, and the other half might go in, it does go into the county.
Sure.
And then dumps over in Spring Cove there. I think at one time, ditches like that were put in by Kent Soil Conservation, but I don't think they do that kind of work anymore. I'm guessing. I don't know. But I agree with John, if you could look into it and find out.
And I'd be happy to meet you down there, Dan, if we have a meeting tomorrow morning down to Still Pond
Yes.
Creek, and if you had time after that, we could ride down and take a look at it.
Absolutely. I can, today I will do some investigation into where the right-of-ways fall in relation to that road and how far into the adjacent properties they may extend, so I'll have a better idea of ownership and.
And if you want to join us,
Again, let me know, just one of you's give me a call, and I'll probably be available. I could meet you down there as well, because I've walked that thing a couple different times, especially when I was town manager down there, but it's a lot of work to getting it done, but it's something that needs to be done.
Sure.
I'm just thinking that if at some point, and I'm not trying to put blame on the town of Rock Hall, but I mean, if they created this problem and they had no choice but to get this water moving, government might have some obligation to try to make this thing right. Either town or county, or maybe jointly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I don't know whose property it is. I know Mrs. Rennie, she's a very nice lady. And if it happens to be her property, if the two governments, Rock Hall and the county, can work together with her permission to alleviate the water issue,
I would
we should
think
try
if
to
there
do
was
it.
a ditch put down there, and it was years ago, I mean, it's certainly not anything recent, but somebody had to get easements or something to put
Right.
that ditch in, so. I just never could figure out who would do the work. Was it something we would have to contract out, but I think years ago, at least I understood that Ken Soul Conservation and stuff used to, or somebody associated with them used to do these kind of ditches, because the Rock Hall's got two or three of them. They got one that goes right straight across the marsh and dumps into the bay, and it's filled up over the years, and I have tried to investigate how we could get that opened up and was never successful. So I'd be interested to see what you find out.
Okay,
All right?
yep. Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Dan.
And we'll be all excited when that granary comes down, so keep us advised.
Will do.
All right.
Thank you.
No, I don't want to say we're excited, but it's something needs to be done, and it's overdue, so. It's sad to see a piece of history go, but that's the way it goes when, that's why we're the only granary left on the bay, because the rest of them had to go, they got tore down too, or fell down, one or the other.
So Dan, I'm assuming when they tear that down and clean it all up, we're gonna temporarily put some stone in there or something until we decide what we're gonna do?
Yes, that would be filled to level grades with the surrounding with stone, yes.
Okay.
And then it might even be something you could, if, for your tar and chip contract, to
Seal that area.
seal that area up for you when they're down here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Scott Boone? I ain't seen you in a year, and seen you last week and 3 times this week. You got 3 things on here this week.
I do.
You must save them up for us, huh?
I do. They're not too bad, though.
Okay.
Okay, the first item is security awareness training. This touches on a bit of this current fiscal year and then next fiscal year. So what this software does is allows us to create baselines, test our users for adequate usage of systems, right? So it gives us red flags if there's things that we notice behavior-wise that we need to take action to mitigate. The issue here is that when we first contracted this, it was in 21 and it was out of cycle. So we use contingency funds, and unfortunately, the contract ends in April, this April, right around the corner. So what happens is we allow a gap, we lose our data, all that baseline information that we've accrued from our users that says this is what normal behavior is, this is what we should expect. We would lose that if we allowed the contract to stop and then start over again on July 1st with the next fiscal year. So what we need to do is we need to bridge that gap, which is, but that requires you, unfortunately, to authorize ahead of time something for the next fiscal year's budget. Okay, so in other words, it'll carry us over for, I believe, the next 3 years. But in order for us to make this April deadline, we have to have the authorization to do it now. Now, we know that we can, the FY '24, to bridge that between now and '25, we can assume that in our budget. So I think that's $844.23. We have that in our budget to handle, but what it will obligate you is through '25, '26, and '27, it would be $33.77 per year. So, but that being said, at the end of that contract, it will now be appropriately terminating on June 30th from that point forward. So it would be in the normal budget cycle. So I hope I explained that correctly.
It's certainly necessary in this day and time to have this in place, so. I'd like to make a motion to approve the renewal of security awareness training for a 39-month term contract with SHI in the amount of $10,975, and that'll occur from FY '25, FY '26, and FY '27.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you. Okay, the next one, I believe, is our Atlantic security discussion. So I know, Tom, you're going to want to weigh in on this. Atlantic, I was here, I think, on the 5th, and we asked for a motion to approve 2 contracts with Atlantic Security pending legal review. And that's where we found a couple issues that we needed to rectify. And of those, the one that is still outstanding is the vendor's liability set at $250.
$250, so the contract is for about 5,000?
One of them's more than that, I can pull it.
Yeah.
160,
And so the
165.
contractor has a clause in there limiting its liability at $250. And Scott attempted to address that with the contractor, and I'm just going to repeat what you advised me, but the contractor said that the $250 limitation was put in there as a requirement by their insurance carrier. And my question is, why do you even need insurance if your liability is limited to $250, that most businesses could absorb a loss of that? And so my concern is, we have a $5,000 contract and there's a breach or a problem with the vendor, then under this limitation of liability, and I guess we could file a legal action and fight and all that, but you're gonna spend a lot of money in that regard. But if you just take the limitation of liability on its face, all the contractor is obligated to pay us is $250. And just, for me, I can't recommend that you enter into a contract where the vendor's liability is limited at $250 if the value of the contract is worth 10 to 20 times that amount.
And one of the issues is, unfortunately, we did a little bit of digging, and there's been 2 contracts signed with Atlantic Security with this same stipulation in it, but it did not go through Tom. So it went a surrogate process, and one of them was in the amount of about $6,800. So, and then the previous one was only about $1,300 many years ago. But this one, the higher value one, was as recent as 2020. And so they're a local company, they performed the work, there were no issues. This one in particular, I watched them do it. It was an incredible job with wiring and how they handled 400 High Street in particular. So that's what we're here, is to present that to you to say, is this something that you're willing to?
What risk do you want to assume?
Right.
So the vendor has told Scott, no. As an attorney in your legal counsel, I can't recommend to a client to accept a contract with a vendor where the vendor essentially absolves himself from any liability if there's a problem. So it's a risk that you would have to consider if you want to take that risk, because if there is a breach or if there is a problem, unless we find some legal theory, which we may, but that there's going to be a cost associated with that, the vendor's liability is capped at $250.
I'm very familiar with the vendor from my previous job. And they have been nothing but reputable. They have always done a good job. Tom, I recognize what you're saying. It makes perfectly good sense if you're talking about $30,000 or $50,000. But knowing this vendor, knowing the work that they've done for the county over the years, we're talking about a small number here. And if for some reason we had a problem, I know Dan very well. He goes over the top to try to make things right. Scott, you just said you've witnessed their work, and
They do good work.
My comments aren't based on
No,
the
You're not
vendor.
basing it around the
I'm
I'm
just
just-
giving
I'm-
general advice
Look,
that I would give with any contract.
your legal advice is sound advice, and I agree. It's just that this to me is a petty thing to be dealing with.
Basically, we're saying we're gonna risk, we think
I think they're
We're gonna
a
risk it.
reputable local company that are gonna do what they say they're gonna do and do it in a suitable fashion. I mean, I have no contact, I have no benefit from it, but I have witnessed what they do, and they do a phenomenal job.
And the one benefit that I would advocate for, as far as timeliness, is one of these contracts does deal with the panic buttons, and that is, I think, a time-sensitive and, security, safety issue.
I would ask this, the current camera system that we have here, is it failing?
Yes, well, the way, almost intentionally fails. So when when you have, whether it's the camera or the NVR, when one does fail, the other side of that tends to not be compatible with the newer unit. So it's almost sort of like a built-in devaluation. So we go into this cycle where if we lose a certain number of cameras or NVR or vice versa, we have to replace the entire system over and over again.
Well, let's get
I'll
this
entertain a motion
resolved
if there's
here
no
real
other
quick.
questions.
Any other questions, Al?
No. No,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the renewal of security awareness training. No, wait, I'm on the wrong one. Sorry about that.
Let me make it. I make a motion to approve the contracts with Atlantic Security for the installation of new panic buttons and security cameras at 400 High Street.
And I'll second it.
Motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it.
Thank you. And the final item is somewhat unique. We haven't done this before. We've advocated for an improvement to one of our internet-based sites, but this is the Tolchester Fairgrounds. So I went out there and met with the individuals representing the fairgrounds about a week and a half ago. And I think one of the benefits of having everyone on site was the ability to communicate, right? Instead of just behind emails and everybody's just sort of guessing, how everything works. So what I did was I kind of walked them around the entire campus and kind of explained the history of it, which I know, Commissioner Fithian, you know it very well. We went out there, we turned it on. And we made them an anchor site. We turned it on. We said, hey, there's this great capacity of internet, and it's just sitting here. And then it was, well, what are we going to do with it? And the first iteration was to actually just turn some radios on and broadcast some free Wi-Fi out to the fairgrounds and just sort of see how it went. Right? They'd never had it before, and it was adequate. It wasn't great, but it was adequate. And I think the last time I was in here, I explained to you that one of you asked me the question about it, that we have a transmission point, and the way the mesh network works is you lose about 50%, 25%. And so the farther away you go from where it comes into the fairgrounds, the weaker and weaker and weaker it gets, right? So that's the essence of it. So what I'm advocating for, it's a service that we already supply. So what I'm advocating for is to sort of embellish that service a little bit and to extend those transmission points, extended from just one point to multiple points throughout the campus. So now instead of going from 100 to 50 to 25 to almost nothing, we have a switch out there where if we could build a couple fiber connections, okay, so this is on campus from where we currently bring the internet in, we're going to go out to 3 different structures. One of them is the new building. It looks great, the new facility they have out there. There's a couple things that they talk to us about wanting to do. Like, for example, they want to have an ATM out there. Well, having internet capacity.
I'm sorry.
ATM.
ATM.
Yeah, ATM. Having that at the new building, if we have a land-based connection out there that has constant internet connectivity, that enables that. Obviously, for the vendors in the near area, they want to have a stronger signal. So what we're advocating for is to build the 3 locations. One would be I don't know, do we have the map up there? But we have, would be the kitchen, the main show pavilion, and then the new building. And so from there, instead of having just the one at the newer building, the main pavilion as you come in, that's where it currently is. You'd have it there, you'd have it at the new building, the show pavilion, and at the kitchen. And the kitchen, the same thing, is where we would like to get it so that they can, have different capabilities to take payments, right? Electronic payments, things like that. So we have a quote, and it would be a sole source because Think Big is the partner that we have on the fiber project, which was a publicly bid out project. And the quote to do all 3 buildings, I think, is very reasonable, of $3,746.80. And I think it would dramatically improve the service offering that they have out there at the fairgrounds.
I think that's a very reasonable attempt to fix a problem that's been plaguing us for a couple years now, so.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the allocation of $3,746.80 from the FY 2024 contingency funds to extend county fiber at the Tyler Chester Fairgrounds and name Think Big Networks as the sole source provider.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it. Thanks, Scott.
Very good, thank you.
Bill Mackey.
Yes, sir.
You want to read that?
I can. Maybe, I'll tell the truth.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
How are you, sir?
Doing fine, thank you. I have two items for you today. The first is declaring a Fair Housing Month in Kent County. As a CDBG grant recipient, part of our Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity Plan instructs us that every April we join federal HUD and Maryland HUD, or Maryland DHCD, to publicly announce Fair Housing Month in Kent County. When we do this, I actually post a copy at our window in Planning and Zoning, and also email a copy to the 5 towns and encourage them to do the same. So,
And we actually have that copy of that Fair Housing Month proclamation, and we'll read it out loud.
okay, wonderful, thank you.
Kent County, Maryland proclamation. Fair Housing Month, April 2024. Whereas Kent County maintains that no person shall be discriminated against in terms of housing based on race, religion, color, creed, ancestry, handicap, or disability, use of guide dogs because of blindness or deafness, or the user, age, sex, or national origin. And whereas Kent County Comprehensive Plan promotes equal opportunity for housing, and whereas the Commissioners of Kent County, Maryland, ensure that the principles of fair housing are implemented through the county's projects and programs. And now, therefore, we, the County Commissioners of Kent County, Maryland, do hereby proclaim April 2024 as Fair Housing Month in Kent County, and encourage each citizen in Kent County to be conscientious of fair housing throughout the year so that Kent County may serve as a model of fair housing. And be it further resolved that the County Commissioners of Kent County respectfully ask Betterton, Chestertown, Galena, Millington, and Rock Hall to enact similar proclamations so that all of Kent County can join both in the state and federal government in recognizing April 2024 as Fair Housing Month. Signed, the County Commissioners of Kent County, Maryland, Ronald H. Fithian, President, Albert H. Nickerson, Member, and John F. Price, Member.
Thank you very much.
Okay. You got one other thing, don't you, Bill?
The second item before you is the priority letter to the Maryland Department of Transportation. Each year at this time, we prepare a letter for review that prioritizes the transportation projects in Kent County. Generally, the same projects are recommended each year. This year, the Planning Commission in their review asked that a sidewalk to connect Kent County High School to Butlertown be added, so that's been added to the letter. We also coordinate with the towns every year, and they go over their list of requests. In this case, Millington asked if an item could be added for a culvert at the 2 entrances of the Millington Elementary School. This item is in preparation of the Consolidated Transportation Program, and in October, the Secretary of Transportation visits all the counties, including this county. It's called the tour, and then they'll discuss the things that were approved. So the letter is attached for your approval, and last year's letter is attached as a reference. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Is the 213 bypass on there?
213, oh,
The Chester River Boulevard.
yes, that is always
It's the
our
first
number
thing
one
on the letter.
project.
Hey, I've been here 26 years. It was on it before they were putting it on that list before I come here, and it's been on there. I'm being facetious and making a joke out of it, but it's a good idea. It's just one that's been kicked down the road for a lot of years, and I don't see it changing anytime soon when you look at the state's budget, and
It's a very expensive idea.
it
yeah.
is an expensive project.
And particularly after today.
Yes.
Yeah, we got another bridge to build first.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And just so you know, every year, there's something called the Chapter 30 review, so communities have to submit their large projects into MDOT for review. That deadline is before this deadline, it's on March 30, it's March 1st. So every year I do submit that item at that time, because I know that we're gonna put it in the priority letter, it's in the comp plan, so every year we ask.
Absolutely. It doesn't hurt to ask. Okay. Thanks.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed 2024 priority letter to MDOT for signature.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before we go into public comment, I got a little, I'm gonna read a letter to you. As you remember, we had, you seen this letter?
I have not.
Okay. It was supposed to have copies sent to you, to
Yes,
both
we
of
got
you.
it. We got it.
You've got this?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Is that what this is here?
I think it's in your packet.
It's in her packet.
Anyhow.
Yeah,
I do have copies.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right, well,
Yeah,
we're
we
gonna
got it.
discuss it for a
Yeah.
minute. 2 Tuesdays ago, we had Town of Millington, Susan O'Neill from Upper Shore Regional Council, Jamie Williams, and we talked about our idea of taking this $1.6 million that we had allocated for a Wharton project and sending it to Millington for the infrastructure for that 52-unit senior housing project. It was quite first of all, it took us a while to get permission to move the money, and then we thought we had, we were worried that we were gonna lose it, so we couldn't get everybody to come to agree that this project was actually gonna move forward. So we made today that deadline, that if we didn't hear something by today, that we were gonna put the money back where it come from, because we obviously don't wanna lose it, it's too much money to risk. Well, there's been a series of emails, Secretary Day from Housing, Department of Housing, I've had several phone conversations with him, but we think, anyhow, let me read the letter. It says, Ronald H. Fithian, President. It says, Millington, regarding the Millington Senior Village. Dear Commissioner Fithian, this letter is provided to you to demonstrate the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development's full support for the Millington Senior Village development. As a part of our broader efforts to close and complete projects that entered the application pipeline during and preceding the COVID-19 pandemic and which have not been completed since as a result of construction cost and interest rate increases. The department appreciates the vital importance of this project to the citizens and businesses of Kent County and the town of Millington specifically, and the importance of rural affordable housing generally. Per our phone call on 3/15 and a follow-up from Mr. Hodgetts of Home Partnership who is the developer, I can confirm that the department will do everything necessary to move this project to the finish line. Assistant Secretary Gregory Hare, who oversees the Community Development Administration, and his staff have confirmed a plan to get the project to closing in the next 12 months. That 8 months, wait a minute now, that means that in the next 4 months, Home Partnership must finish the design process, and in the next 8 months, now that don't mean 4 plus 8 means 12, this is a total of 8 months, the horizontal construction infrastructure should be underway. While we must still close a $2.3 million gap, Assistant Hare and I have identified a variety of sources, including federal home, CDBG, and state rental housing production funds we will use to do that. I'm willing to commit these state and federal resources to make this happen. It also means that this project will receive more than will be made available to virtually any other project in the state. Further, I understand the commissioners will vote whether to commit the $1.6 million funding to the Millington project at its next public meeting of March the 26th. Home Partnership has indicated its willingness to work on this project, so together I believe we can get this project to the finish line. Please allow me to express how important the county's commitment is and how significant that commitment is to convincing us to commit extra funds to this project. Local governments, including the town of Millington and Kent County, that invest in affordable housing with their resources are those which should receive the benefit of state support, and through this project, you shall. Millington Senior Village will provide well-designed, energy-efficient homes to seniors looking for affordable options in Kent County. This project will be one citizens of our great state will be proud of for generations. Please let me know if you have any questions. Sincerely, Jacob R. Day, Secretary. So I think that's good news.
That's great news.
And you can't imagine how many times we had, over the course of time since we've been dealing with it, that we thought we had lost this project and was getting ready to write it off. But that's a pretty impressive letter written, and I think Frank is working on it. He's assured me that the design and stuff will meet these deadlines and that we can make it work. So I guess what we need to do is, if you could, Commissioner Price, make a motion stating that we're going to continue to devote this 1.6 million to the Millington project.
And that's out of the ARPA funds that were.
It's not ARPA funds, it's from the Upper Shore Regional Council. It was the money designated, I think there was $10 million given to Kent, Queen Anne's, and Cecil County. And we gave a portion of that anyhow, each of the three counties ended up with about $3 million, and we had to use it for infrastructure projects. And we've used some of it up in Millington for design of that wastewater treatment plant. This will be another one, and then there was another one that was talked about. I don't know how it's going, but that's where it's coming from. It's money.
We basically moved the money from Wharton's.
That's correct.
Build out to the Millington.
And what that was where it come from was a project in Wharton, as you point out, to put water and sewer down along some property that's zoned commercial or industrial, some of it is, I think. But we had nobody asking in hopes that somebody would build something on that property. But we have nobody talking about it. We're not even sure whether the people would sell the property. So I think it was a better use here in Millington. And for one, I think it'll be a project the three of us can be proud of.
So I'd like to make a motion that the commissioners dedicate $1.6 million from the Upper Shore Regional Council funding that was proposed initially for the Wharton extension of water sewer to the project for the Millington Senior Village development in Millington.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it.
I would also like to suggest that as a result of this letter, that we consider sending a very well-written thank you letter to Secretary Day.
No question about it. That was going to be, you took the word, that was going to be my second thing to bring up, because that's exactly what he's gone overboard to make sure that this project works, and I agree. So Sandra, if you could maybe take this letter and write a thank you letter off of that, and put some of your magic into the letter writing, which she does a great job. And be sure to let him know how much the people of Kent County appreciate.
And I think the letter should be signed by all three of us.
Yeah, and send us each one a copy, and maybe if we have something we want to add or take out before you do it final, let us look at a version of it. That'd be great. And Sandra does an excellent job of writing letters, so I don't have any worries about that.
Perfect.
This is a great project to get done
Absolutely.
for the citizens of
It's gonna help
this
a lot.
county. Affordable housing for seniors,
It's going to help a lot of people.
it certainly is.
And not just in Millington, but the whole county.
I think it was 52 units they're talking about.
It is,
So,
yeah.
if I remember correctly. So that's a great project.
Yeah.
That's gonna,
We just got to make sure we keep everybody moving to make sure, once we get this money, we're starting to draw on this money. I don't think, they're not gonna take the money away from us if we run over the deadline. Because I'm sure we're not the only project that's gonna run over. But, I'm excited about it, and I think it just goes to show that what you can do sometime if you don't give up and you contact the right people and talk with them and explain things, it goes a long ways, so.
I think that brings up a good point, and I know that, Ronnie, you had a lot to do with that. I know we got emails a few times now saying that it was dead, and you didn't take that as a dead. You reached out to these people on your own or individually, and I think that that's what kept this thing going.
Well, only because I knew I had the solid support of my commissioners.
And you had a former relationship with Secretary Day.
Right.
Which I
Yeah.
think certainly helped.
Yep.
But you also make a bigger salary than Albert.
Yeah, there's that.
Well, damn if it doesn't, it ought to start showing up sometime now, because I haven't seen it. But anyhow, we're all three excited about this. This is something we were hoping we could get done, and it's gonna get done. So now it's public comment and media review. Mr. Saunders, I know you got something on your mind here. Come on up front.
Not really.
It's always good to see
I'm sorry
you.
that I wasn't on the agenda, but this just come to me. My thing is Mount Olive Church. The driveway that goes around Mount Olive when they go in.
That's in Butlertown.
In Butlertown, the Mount Olive Church. I'm getting slack from it because I'm a trustee. But there's a whole lot of potholes in there that go around there. And the school bus uses it. They go in, they turn, go back out, go in, turn, come back out. So first my thing was, would I get the county to come in and fix that section? Or do I go to a private contractor and get it fixed? I don't want to go to a private contractor and get it fixed and then put a cable there on each side. Because it's the benefit of them county buses to go and turn around and go back up to their, where they park at.
Jim, let me stop you right there. Now, first of all, coming into Butlertown from Rock Hall area, Mount Olive is that
Big church.
you have a church on the left. I just want to
Right
make
there.
sure. And they come around.
I've
Look,
seen it do it.
bunches of times in my time, I don't think we've ever turned down. I know we've took snow off of churches in Eadsville. We do things like the county does. And all you're talking about is maybe having some stone or something put in there.
Put in them
and smoothed
potholes
out.
and stuff like that and everything.
That's a
so that
no-brainer. We'll
so
take
that
care of
it-
that for you.
Okay, I appreciate it. So that'll benefit, that'll take slack off me.
It does, and it's such a minimum cost to us.
I appreciate
There's no way we could say no.
Okay, I said I'll bring it in here to y'all first, because I didn't want to put a cable up.
No, we don't want that.
And stop
Look,
the
we gotta
buses
live
from
together,
coming. Yeah,
Jim.
right.
So we'll make sure County Roads takes a look at that. We'll call them and tell them to
I've got
fix,
to call on Dan now.
and we'll make sure it's done.
I appreciate it.
And let me go ahead and make a motion so it's clear.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that
Hold
we.
for one.
Go ahead.
Before you make that motion.
Now, wait a minute, now you're going back.
Yeah, I mean, where are you going now? Where are you going with this now?
That was so easy. He wants his driveway done now. I put it
Oh, you want your driveway done?
I mind concrete, 'cause I can't think about it. But the thing about it, I would like for them to, take a look at it every year, if they don't mind,
Yeah.
keep an eye on it, because the maintenance piece should be up every year, if they're gonna come in there every year. So,
We're gonna see you every year.
you're gonna see me every year.
Some years it might just need to be scraped and moved around.
That's fine, I don't have a
Once it
problem
gets
with
it,
But
now,
when
you've already
you-
got a good base there.
But when you dealing with Cheryl, and she seen the potholes, she got on me about it. I said, let me go to county commission and see what I
It's
can
not
do.
a that's a very simple problem.
That's all,
Very
if
simple.
you'd have led with Miss Cheryl, we could have been done 10 minutes ago.
You got it right.
The only thing I would like to clarify with the county attorney real quick, do we need any type of waiver that the church is allowing us to do the work there?
I think we should probably get some type of release from the church that they are
In agreement.
authorizing us to be on the property and releasing us of any liability.
Is that something that we can make happen pretty
I
quick?
can make it happen.
Yeah, just send us a letter,
Who you want me to send a letter to?
Yeah.
county commissioner.
Would that work?
County commission?
Yeah, just say that,
I'll
that
just bring it
can be
in.
one paragraph, 2 sentences, that the trustees of the church, because typically the churches are run by the trustees.
Right.
The trustees of the church are authorizing the county on the property to perform this work, and that the church is releasing the county from any liability associated with it.
That's fine.
That's all you gotta do.
When those buses make that turn, sometimes they got, students still on them, correct?
You're right.
So, I mean, it's kind of it's a safety issue that, because there is no place for them to turn around.
That's right.
Nah. And they
Listen,
use
that's-
that, you
that's a
know, and
no-brainer.
we don't wanna, they use it and it's benefiting the county. And we don't wanna close the driveway up if they come on through. Some of
And
them
we
can't
don't want
drive.
any children getting hurt either.
Huh?
And we don't want children getting hurt either.
No. I
So,
done-
I'd like to make
I done put 4 cones down there now, they done run over 'em.
That
So-
was me. I saw you put them up, that was me.
Oh, what? Thanks a lot, fellas.
you.
I'll get that, letter to you.
Yep, bring that
Okay.
in here to us and we'll,
And when you get home, if you don't remember the word, and just give Tom Yeager a call and he'll
Right.
tell you what to write down.
don't call Ronnie, because he's already forgotten.
Yeah.
I'll get Cheryl right, she'll write
There
it.
you go, there you go.
All right.
I don't
All
have
right,
a
Joe.
problem with that. Thanks a lot, fella.
And
I'd
I'll
like,
call
Or
for,
I get Bill, Bill taken care of. See you
I'd like
later.
to make a motion that we ask Dan, who's on his way back in here, by the way, to take a look at that, to grade it, and put the necessary stones in there to take care of the issue that the buses have caused
Nice seeing you
at Mount
guys.
Olive.
Second.
Thanks for everything.
motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it. Now, you say Dan's coming back in here.
We've, I think Lacey was going to try to contact him.
It's fine, we can wait a few minutes and,
We do have one more person that would like to speak.
He's already had his time.
oh, Mike, I wouldn't think that you have anything to say.
Probably back, I wonder what it's
Come on
about.
up.
Come on, I'm joking with you know I am.
Good conversation with Dr. Couch this morning. You were correct. We're 17th lowest in median household income. The last time I looked at the Census Bureau numbers,
Right.
we're 17th lowest. Of the counties below us, actually, it's of the jurisdictions below us, they're all rural counties with the exception of one, and that's Baltimore City. From the standpoint of what Dr. Couch talked about this morning and the necessary legislation that may be needed moving forward in whatever plan the commission is going to come up with on how to handle Kerwin, the blueprint, in the future. 2027 is that critical year when everything just, even though we've got an easy fiscal year with the fiduciary needs of the school system for next year, 2027 is the balloon year, and then it keeps on going up from there. I think it's, if memory serves me correctly, it's like 2.5 million in 2027, then it goes to 3.5 million, 4, and then it jumps $1 million a year till implementation. There's a couple of years in there that's 5 million, 6 million, 7 million on a by-year basis. So it's very expensive. Whatever we're going to do, because we know how Annapolis works and that it takes a couple of legislative sessions to get anything done, whatever we're going to do that needs legislation, we ought to be implementing now, greasing the skids with the lobbying firm that we've contracted with, because we're going to need that. If we wait to 2027, we're going to be behind the curve. And whatever the plan is between yourselves, if it's going to require legislation, whether it's that the school system is divided between Cecil and Queen Anne's, that we secede from the state of Maryland and make the state of Delmarva, don't get all upset, John. Whatever it is that we're going to do, we need to start implementing or greasing the skids for legislation now, because 2027 is going to be here before we know it. And we're going to be really behind our curve with those kinds of increases that we're going to be looking at. I would also add that it's interesting that there are a number of superintendents of education systems leaving their positions in the state of Maryland. Have you noticed? It's not just Dr. Couch that's leaving.
I did notice that, yes.
There's like 2 or 3 other, Howard County, there's a number of these people that are leaving. And I don't know if it's coincidence or it's just their time to retire, but it's interesting that they're leaving just about the time that the Kerwin hits the fan, so to speak.
And what I'm concerned, and we're gonna discuss further, is using that one-time money to balance, to put reoccurring costs. You're artificially, you're making what's gonna happen in the future much worse, because you're building up, anyhow, that's a topic for another.
I compliment you guys, exactly what you did. I think a lot of people were sitting in the audience hopefully were saying the same thing. Take it out of your surplus, and if the commissioners need to back that up in a year or 2 to make up that, then that's when to do it. That's when to do it.
Anyhow, okay.
So that's it. I'm just saying, if we need to get whatever legislation we think we're going to need, we need to start greasing the skids now. And I don't even know what the District 36 team is going to look like in the future. There are a lot of rumors going around on who's going to run, who's not going to run, what's going to make up the team. But whatever it is, maybe the lobbying team that we've got, the lobbyists that you've contracted with, while the general session is in session now, can start talking about what we need to do in a year or 2. That's my thought.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Well, I do think that it would be beneficial at some point for us to engage in a conversation with Queen Anne's and Cecil, just to throw it out there, just to look at it, to investigate it, and see if there's any appetite. And then, of course, we want to hear from our constituents how they all feel as well. I mean, I don't want our kids being bused up to Bow Manor or Cecil.
I wouldn't envision it happening
I
that
don't
way.
think it
I
would
would
work
think
that
we
way.
would use our own schools.
I think we
just
would.
become, and listen, this is hypothetical talk right now.
That's all it
We're
is.
We're just talking, but you would maybe take the Galena area might belong to Cecil County and some of the other down to Queen Anne's, but you would still have the same
Rock Hall
schools.
Rock Hall would belong to Baltimore.
We're gonna do our own. We'll take that
It would
right.
belong to Baltimore City.
Yeah, but
You would do that to Rock Hall.
No, I would
I thought
not.
you liked Rock Hall.
No, I would not do that to Rock Hall. I would do that to any jurisdiction.
But that's yeah.
Those school systems can't absorb the number of pupils that we have. We would have to use our own
Yeah.
facilities, our own teachers.
You have to.
It would just be the administration cost.
The administration and the resources.
If you could distribute our administration costs to other entities, that reduces our tariff, or reduces our revenue requirements significantly.
Oh, yeah.
It's just worth a conversation.
It is,
Yeah.
and no question about it.
And if it looks like it grows legs, then that's great.
Listen, like I pointed out, my grandson gets up at 5:30 in the morning to catch a 6 o'clock bus. If he was going to Centerville or Chesapeake City, he'd be getting up 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning, but that's tough on a young kid, I tell you.
The current legislation that's been brought up by the House Leader, Adriana Jones, the 1.2, 1.3 billion, I think it is, with the new fees, the new taxes, et cetera, that she is proposing and is not necessarily being addressed by Ferguson in a popular way. But that's all funding for the state. That's all funding for transportation endeavors and Kerwin and the blueprint, but at the state level.
Right.
We were talking about it earlier. I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there has been no legislation presented during this General Assembly session to help the counties out at the county level with the blueprint. There's been no funding talk at all whatsoever. And that would not, even if they did, that wouldn't be until the 2026 fiscal year. I mean, what I see is that they're kicking the can down the road as usual with funding. You know, yeah, it's not something that, and I think it was Ferguson that said, it's not something that we have to address right now, we're okay.
But it's a double whammy with taxes, because if the citizens of the state have to pay all these additional taxes and fees, then they're going to be asked to pay additional taxes and fees to the county.
Yes,
They get hit twice.
right.
And those proposed taxes and fees are a nightmare to the business community as well, because certain businesses that provide services that are not equipped to collect taxes are now going to have to collect taxes if this goes through, which adds an extra burden, both in time and in money.
And I tell you, if you think the state had problems yesterday, they really got problems today.
Now, oh yeah.
Because that what happened with that bridge, that key bridge, that's a catastrophic event that is it's gonna be far in the future, that is something they got to deal
The
with
port's closed.
for a period of time.
Yeah.
16,000 people work there.
And what is it gonna do? I think John and I were talking about it before the meeting. What is it gonna do to 301 now,
Yeah,
coming through our county?
This traffic's got to be diverted someplace.
yeah. Yeah, the other thing too is I don't know that any teacher, Dr. Couch talked about the fact that the new teacher salary has to be $60,000 a year. I wonder if any teacher has ever put a pencil and calculated out that whatever revenue we're going to need to pay for Kerwin in the future is going to increase real estate taxes. And you wonder if any teacher has ever put a pencil to it and say, well, this is $60,000 is good, and I'm going to net this amount of money. And oh yeah, by the way, my taxes are going to go up 240%, to pay for this thing.
Well, we'll see about that.
The net to the teacher is insignificant in the total scheme of things, and when you add all of this up and take a look at it,
That
crazy.
argument fell on deaf ears with the legislature when the increase in the minimum wage was brought up, because the increase in the minimum wage caused other things to go up, which caused prices to go up. But
It's
that
a
argument
vicious
just
cycle.
fell on
It's always
deaf
been
ears.
that way. It's always been that way. We are the seventh highest cost of living state in the nation. We have the fifth highest gas tax. We have the seventh highest minimum wage, and rightly so, because we're the seventh highest cost of living state. And all those other metrics about where we are in the business structure. You've heard me say, we're down around 40th worst state to do business in or to start a business in.
Gas tax increase was very cowardly, because that was, instead of voting on an increase each time you want to raise taxes, 10, 12 years ago when they passed that, they just tied it into inflation. So it automatically goes up
CPI.
unless they do something, which was a very cowardly way of doing taxes, because it avoids accountability at the time the tax increase goes into effect.
And according to everything that's been reported about this legislation that Adriana Jones is presenting, a lot of those fees and taxes are going to be also tied into the CPI. They will automatically increase, that they won't need voting by the legislature every General Assembly. They can wash their hands of that, and we'll see the increases as well. It's a terrible situation. It really is. It's a vicious, vicious cycle. No one has sat down and said, well, let's take a look at cost of everything and see how we can reduce our expenditures. We've been a spend and tax state now for decades. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now.
My view on this is that the folks in Annapolis, they have been quoted saying that they're not going to raise taxes. So the way they got around that is everyone got their assessments, or a lot of us did, and they went up. Now your property taxes are going to go up.
Sure.
So don't tell me you're not raising taxes. You're hiding behind the increased assessment.
You're not raising taxes, but you're raising.
Well, an
You're raising
increase,
revenue
an increase
as a
of
result of
assessment
that.
is an increase of tax.
Yeah.
Because what you do is you lower the tax rate to balance out the increase in assessment. Otherwise, it's a tax increase.
Exactly. Hidden.
Thank you.
It's hidden.
Thank you for hearing me.
Okay.
Dan, we need to talk
Yes.
to Dan real quick.
Come on up.
After you left, we had public participation, and Mount Olive Church out to Butlertown,
Yes.
they have a driveway that goes around, and a lot of our school buses with children on them utilize that as a turnaround, and as a result of that, the wear and tear has caused some potholes. And the three of us talked about it, and we think that as soon as you can, maybe you can go out there and grade it a little bit,
Sure.
add whatever stone needs to be added.
And make sure, and I'm sure you would, put the same stone in it that they've got in it.
Yeah.
I don't want, I
Sure.
wouldn't want somebody to take gravel in there and,
Yeah, we don't want orange gravel.
just get, whatever they've got, fill the potholes up and level things out there
Okay.
if you could.
Okay.
And maybe put it on a schedule, like, once a year, just take a look at it to provide some,
No, that's
Clean up or
perfect.
whatever.
Absolutely. We, in the past, we do that for people's lanes and stuff that are not part of it, but we do it because they're part of the
if we
the
are
citizenry.
responsible for damaging something, we're gonna take care of it. I mean, they're county school buses,
Yes.
so.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry to have to call you back, but.
No problem.
Now get to work.
Now we have, that's going to wind up our open session. We have a closed session on the book, so
John doesn't have anything, so? You good?
John's pretty easy to satisfy. He just takes it all in.
I just read an article, or just saw this article that the boat captain, I was very, because we're, as we all are with this ship, I was felt just that what those two pilots, those bay pilots were just going through their mind. This article says that those bay pilots actually did a Mayday call, and they did get to stop. That's what stopped the traffic from going across.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they did a Mayday, and they dropped the anchors, because that was one of the things this morning.
I seen
So
the
they were-
anchor on that
slowed it
ship
down.
was
So they were on top of everything, just.
How about that?
Yeah.
Were the vehicles that fell, were they unoccupied?
I think the vehicles that fell were the people that were working on the bridge. I think it was crews of people working on the bridge from what this is saying. And it looked like that in the video. You could see their strobe lights, like they were working on the bridge, and those were the ones.
So it was the
Yeah.
construction vehicles.
And the two, they got two out of they picked two up.
So
One of them
Let me
wasn't hurt
make
at
this
all. He
motion
didn't-
here real quick.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session under the Annotated Code of Maryland, General Provisions, Article 3-305B, 1, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. Today, we plan to discuss a topic with our planning and zoning director regarding replacement of an attorney for the Board of Appeals.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.